Cause they put, what they call like a J bead on the edge, which is like a metal when they sheet rock it, so that.
There was some talk about putting some kind of barrier, I think, in the
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we didn't do it.
I found my stuff, Karen.
Did you?
Yeah, no, but I did find it with some of my notes.
Whoa, baby.
Loud and clear?
I actually gotta turn the thing down here.
It's like that commercial, can you hear me now?
Oh, God. I come in here in the afternoon, Sue, and I set this all up,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like a hit or miss.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it works. It's just how loud it is. And just now I found out how loud it was. Oh, God.
Hey, hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Not as good as you.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Sorry.
Hello.
how goes the battle?
It goes. It goes.
Yeah.
That works pretty nice.
How's the residential market going?
Not great. Great if you're a seller.
Yeah.
Well, even that's starting to turn a little bit, but
Yeah. One of the guys in my office just bought a house in Francistown.
is that like,
That's like near Peterborough.
Yeah,
area,
yeah,
out
yeah,
that way,
okay.
Mount Vernon, out that way. Well, my office is in Bedford, so,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Say something
My
today.
poor sister.
Oh.
She lives
Later
in
on.
Oh, no problem.
Barnstead.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Off Lake Colony.
Sounds like a good
You
idea.
didn't throw your name in the
There's
hat
like-
this year, huh?
For what?
It's called like Center Barnstead. It's its own
Oh, okay,
little
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
What?
For the-
lake
Yeah, I've been
community.
through
It's a
there,
lot
yeah.
of little starter homes and
Yeah.
chalets and
He
stuff.
was
She bought a
Oh.
house in there when she was in law school.
You
Yeah.
didn't know.
And now they're stuck in it.
It's all right.
So,
And
It's,
yeah, so
when
it hasn't
Mark-
been great. I've been
see,
trying
I
to
was
find something for
following
her
it,
for like
and
over
it's,
a year now.
Yeah.
used to the process.
Yeah.
And they,
it's a rough
Mark didn't get
market.
his name in time,
nasty.
Right.
I know, my granddaughter.
so they'll
Four
have to
hundred
know
fifty
them.
thousand dollar house
And
costs
some-
$3,700 a month.
Whatever
Yeah.
they are.
My granddaughter's
Danny something or other, won the election.
And,
Oh.
she,
So you gotta be in there.
she's been
usually
saving, you know,
sometime
like,
in
there's
January.
putting her, all her paycheck in the bank.
Well, it works out okay.
2-week window in there,
You
I
know.
think, but.
Yeah, like I
It's
said,
like
this is,
even
Grandma
it
and
works out
grandpa are
fine.
gonna have to help her.
I'm
you know.
learning the job, so I'm,
Even with like,
But this other guy has,
we bought our
we know
house
of, has
Yeah.
no
in
no
2017.
background or anything. Did that guy Dana, did he ever get
Yes,
sworn in?
He got sworn in at the last
Like,
selectmen's meeting.
He
They
did
had a
get
couple
sworn in, so he's gonna be
Yeah.
here
We were
tonight.
As far as we know, we
VA, we
don't
had
have
like, I think
contact
like
information for
15%
him, so
down.
we're.
Yeah.
We just wrote them a nice letter
Yeah.
and gave them asking price and they fixed a bunch of stuff. It was like such an
But
easy
you're gonna
process.
have to take his
Now
name
it's like, I
tag
just
and
feel so bad.
face it towards us, cause we don't know
Well,
who he
this
is.
costs you $4,000 a month, but you better make sure you budget for a new roof, a new
Yeah.
heating
Oh, yeah,
system.
I know.
The
Tom
septic's
that he,
almost
They
gone.
they
Like,
don't think about those
He
things, some
didn't
people
know that
don't.
he had.
We
put
had,
his name in the hat in
one of our
January.
property managers over in
Well,
Bedford told me she
actually,
had a
nobody
couple
did
that
because
bought a
I
house and they moved
thought
out.
that's- yeah,
I
we
thought
did send
Mark
you
was,
emails.
What do you have?
Yeah.
Like that, like we could pretty much, they were like, we had enough money to get into it, but we don't have enough money to
Yeah.
maintain it.
Yeah, and that's.
well, like I said, I'm just learning stuff,
You know,
so
and,
And it's like, you have.
I'm
a
happy to
budget
help whatever I can do.
top of your
Yeah.
budget.
I don't need to be in
yes,
charge.
no, I know.
Yeah,
I
there's
know.
no wiggle room.
I tell my
it's,
granddaughter, I
that's
go,
not what it's about.
make it an ADU down there, or just finish part of it for a bedroom for
it's
you.
just that
Although I have a bedroom upstairs.
Yeah.
I have two
It's
extras.
for having
One is my office and one is
quorum.
a guest room, but.
we have, on rare occasions,
I know you
Tom,
want your privacy.
have had three members only.
Because grandma doesn't wanna hear you either.
I know.
Of course, if, you know,
That's
She's
good.
like,
we could, as long as we have a chairman.
That's
in
visual,
place,
that's a visual.
Well,
I
it's
crack
like
up.
multi-generational living is becoming so common
we
now,
can,
because nobody, you know,
appoint you
young families, especially with kids.
as
First of all, I don't know how people are feeding like 3+ children right now. I'm like, I'm spending $300 a week at the grocery store for me, my husband, and the 2 dogs. So
I know.
I don't know how people with kids are doing
I
it.
know,
So,
I know, my husband goes grocery
yeah,
shopping,
no, that would have been
and
nice to have you
we've
on
always
board.
been
but-
frugal, but.
Yeah.
They don't pay you for that, right? It's not a paid position.
Like, you know,
They don't get
But
money for it, right?
majority is
I didn't think so.
just
This is all just
fruits and
volunteer,
vegetables
no.
or
I
something.
don't know, that's what I figured,
I
wasn't it?
started buying a
If
ton of
we were to
frozen
pay
fruits
for
and
it, so many
veggies.
people
Yeah.
would be rich
Yeah.
by now.
Yeah, that's the
Because
thing.
Peter's been on the
So
board
he goes
since
to
the
the store
nineties.
and just gets what
Yeah.
we need for
Mark's
a
been
couple
on the
days.
board
Yeah,
long
that's
before
You know,
I did.
for,
I think he
for
was
fresh
in
stuff like
09.
that, so.
And I was
Makes
either
it
in 11
less easy and,
or the
makes it
beginning of
easier, but
12.
we don't waste,
I actually
so
looked back on it
that
and
makes
I
it better.
had the
Yeah.
stuff I had at
Yeah,
home.
but yeah, it's rough
And,
out there.
I don't know
I
which I
wouldn't wanna be
was.
starting out.
All rise.
I mean,
Oh, all right.
In fact,
when I moved from Manchester. I
not
sold
worthy.
my car.
I saved a seat for you.
Well, hey, thank you.
You know, but again, I have to pay the toll. Yeah, up here.
But you didn't sign up.
Didn't sign your house up here.
So, I thought I had until the end of February, so I went in there in February. I thought I had until the end of February.
You thought it was the
Real
end
estate
of
agent sends
For me
me
to sign
this
up.
thing all the time and houses
They
like
said it
mine.
was too late, so I said, okay, I'll be an alternate.
$100,000 more than I paid.
Oh, boy.
Just built it.
And now Reese said,
Yeah, yeah, 3 months, 4 years.
Reese is gone, I guess.
It'll be 4 years.
Reese?
He is? He's off the board?
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
it's
didn't know
not
that.
He resigned.
He resigned? I didn't
I
know
say to my
that.
husband all the
So
time.
she
Oh, okay,
wants
so
me to
you,
I feel like we're like boomers.
One way or the other, you got me, brother.
no, that's not good. I hate to see him go, because he
That was
always
like,
had
that
pretty
was my
smart
priority.
questions,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like, I just wanna
But yours are like,
make
right there. And you're not afraid to, you know, if I say something, you're not afraid to point out something
just did
else.
a home
And we
equity
need more
market
people to do that, you know, to say, hey, you know, did you think of this?
Yeah,
You know, or no, I think some other way. That's important, not just because it makes it right, it's good for the record too.
Well,
Peter said that to me a long
We're
time
very
ago,
fortunate.
you know, that after
I
a
had a
meeting,
property, before I married
I
my husband,
objected to something he
I had
said.
a property
And
and he
he
had a
caught me on the door, he says,
And
that's
so-
good, that's what we need that, so.
well, it was weird because we didn't have 3 people that saw a person's house.
Say again?
We didn't have 3 members that saw a house, so we had to reschedule it. I didn't know that
Yeah,
was a rule.
it was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was high.
No, but what I'm saying is,
The way the,
I bought
the way
a
the
new
law is
construction
written,
and we paid like $320.
you're supposed to have 5 people on the board,
God, that's a
but you
ton of
have to
money.
have 3 votes out of 5.
But we had some
But if
getting
you only
in, so
have
we
4
usually
people
have
come, you need 3 out of 5.
And
If you only have 3 people come, then you gotta have 3 out of 5.
How are you?
So that's why Peter was supposed to say, sometimes he forgets without 4, that we have what he calls a short board. So now you know what a short
Yeah,
board is.
yeah.
That means you have to have 75% of the vote, whereas you only need 66% if you got 5 people.
myself about a
And
builder,
when I, when,
you know,
and I think he's done it too, when he acted as a chairman.
Oh, that's important. That's my notes.
And so if there was a time where there
People
would
don't
only
think
have
about
3,
driveways and they don't think about
figured somebody
landscaping, right? Because they
That's
do,
both of that,
they do
both of
like
that.
30 feet around the house, but they don't guarantee the seed will take,
yeah.
right?
yeah, you gotta have a hundred feet,
And you
you
know
want
what?
to, or you wanna have this reheard.
Right.
You say
you
right
know,
at the
and I'm
beginning.
like,
Alright, so yeah,
although I did question certain things, you know, like, as they have with the HVAC.
Hey, it happens,
You
you
know,
gotta start
the
somewhere.
air conditioning
Exactly.
part of it,
This
and
is a
so
good
I
one to
made
start
them
with.
decide for that, and had an agreement with that, and
well, I'm sorry to hear that Reese resigned, but,
how's it going? I'm
How you doing,
Tom.
sir? I'm Dana.
got
Yeah,
that.
good to meet
Well,
you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Landscaping.
Yeah,
turn down.
Tom, yeah, I guess, I got my
There's
name
There's the
tag.
tree
Yeah,
crap, yeah,
tree
that's all
stumps
been
on the
ripped out.
I told him to save money. I brought my own.
You know, and,
Yeah.
so,
Nice, nice.
It's a great
it was 30 for
What
that,
kind of
and
work you
then
guys got there?
back to high
So
school,
I'm
so union.
the regional operations manager around here.
We didn't know,
Construction company.
and trying to get anybody to do
We're
it.
based out of Vermont, but we have
We
multiple
hired him,
offices.
he
in
was
New
our
Jersey.
man.
We're, currently, we're building.
Did you have a fine experience with him?
operations for them. electric co-op.
He was fine.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
He did
But we
pretty
were
much
all
what
customers.
we asked him to do. But he didn't
That's
do
a,
what he asked him
at
to
least
do.
you're in the right business.
He was,
I didn't know the party started. Karen, you said the party was later.
but yeah.
It's not Cinco de Mayo.
To,
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, sir.
Are you Green Dana?
Yes, sir.
I'm John.
Nice to meet you, John.
From me. Nice meeting you, Dana.
back out on the
I'm
driveway,
John, and
my
I'm
car,
so,
driveway's
but I can hear your hair
it's
grow.
like a block.
I can hear what you're thinking too. Yeah, so I, you don't think so,
Unless you're really loud.
but yeah, everything comes to me into my,
Okay.
on,
Mr.
not
Harris.
He was able to come.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, that's,
So, yeah.
so that's connected to it, the system all comes
Oh, yeah.
into that over there. And
Gotcha.
Before we went out and bought a truck, everyone calls. So I was like, we gotta do something, we can't just,
yeah.
you know, and we called other people, not interested, only commercial.
Oh, yeah, any of the like,
Okay.
big companies,
Yes.
forget about
Thank
it,
you.
yeah.
He's gonna come on
And
full on
know
next month,
anybody
so this is
around.
Mark's last
You know, I
full
asked,
meeting.
and my husband called,
I
the
know.
Everybody
numbers.
remember, and then
You know what, there's these two guys that live.
we've got some stuff from staff report, but you got your.
I
Every
got a
storm,
truck and a plow now.
every storm, they always post on the community page, and then
I've been going to these meetings for maybe 4
shoveling,
months.
we're out making runs all
Yeah,
day.
so I'm really new.
We've used that one time where we were on vacation
Yeah.
and got
Good.
a
I'm brand new, so.
it was just like
Well, I got a map.
watching a house.
Good.
So we called them, they came over, they shoveled off the deck, they
Supposed to
moved the
visit
driveway.
the property, so I don't know if you did that, but I literally just got back.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, okay, maybe she's got it, I just haven't seen
We
it.
had to, one of the guys rescheduled because
And what I'll have to do
They
is
gave us
post the
names and we called
supposed to have at least 3, and there was only like 1.
clients or whatever.
So we had to
Yep.
make sure we saw it.
All right.
Yeah, she probably
How
doesn't.
you doing, Peter?
But we ended up doing it.
Because like they said, you know, ultimate, because the regular guys do
Yeah,
not
it takes it
have.
off.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those
Now I know.
ones that goes like that. He's used to just the regular one.
Yeah.
He's got the thing. It's not-
So I actually have to work.
Oh.
And she doesn't even have a big driveway. She's
I'm retired, and my wife and I had a veterinary clinic. She also has another veterinary
Does this
clinic.
just go out there on the
And I also do real estate with William Ravis, but I only do it literally private.
Let's see what I mean.
Just has to go to the select board. They have.
But I don't go.
like the gas mileage was
Thank you.
I
wear
let,
and tear.
Not lots of advertisement or anything.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's a nice business for me because they write things off and I get to see
Got it?
the construction.
Okay, let me put this over there. You want me to put it over on the table?
Up to all kinds of
Yes,
people.
yeah. Well, we have
I get to see some really
Speaking
cool
of my
properties.
a
microphone.
husband because
Really
we just
pretty, really
we're done. He's freaky about it.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
So, so you can hear the whole room?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Kinda echoey though, right?
He was like,
Susan.
maybe we should get a bigger
Yeah.
snowblower.
Let me put it on the table there, see how that
I
works.
want to make sure I can hear you.
Like how many?
My
know.
new ears.
I know. I'm like, and where are you gonna put it?
Yes, if you need these, they're at the town hall in the,
Cause we have.
I will grab one. I have
they're handy.
a
but-
midget version, but I almost need
Well,
a
right there will probably be.
right now.
He has a.
Yeah, and you might be better,
Yep.
like I
Okay, can you hear me?
just
Yep,
go in
very good.
Barely good plate.
Yeah, or.
And I have it on a low stuff.
Our garage is tight like that. We have
Yep.
like just.
I
our
had
Thank you,
thoughts
John.
of that. I was actually just gonna bring my
and then
laptop,
the
but honestly, I
lawnmower,
didn't know
the
if that was
snow blower.
Well,
See, I have
the
mine that- oh, yeah, sure,
snowblower
we can.
fits under the stairs.
I have,
Oh,
The
nice.
house,
Yeah.
so that works out
Tucks
good.
out of the way.
You know,
But,
boating,
um,
I think I could probably figure
He
things
had to
out,
buy a lawnmower
anyway.
and get anybody to.
That's why all these apps are too much,
Which we had tried that
too
too,
much
so.
stuff going on.
We didn't want to.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
so we bought an ergo.
We had a question once about,
Hello, John. How's it going?
Pretty good.
picked up the.
Hi, John.
And then, the youth is good.
This weather was so nice today.
Yeah.
The snow caught me off
Okay.
guard the other
I'm
day. I
just
was
making sure
expecting
there's not-
flurries and I could not believe
I know.
at work how it accumulated. I was like, because when you have a garage, you're spoiled. You don't get used to
that way,
cleaning
too.
off your car, you know?
Yeah.
So I was,
Yeah. I look out the window when I get up.
These are the
and
ones I
think,
made, I already made, yeah, that's my first meeting. And, these are
with people that like were coming up from Manchester. They said they didn't get any snow at all.
No,
None.
it was rain. It
Yeah.
was all rain
Even a ton.
until I hit Concord on my way
And
home.
what, at least for me.
People were
after
like
we're
off
done,
the road
we go back
because they were going too fast. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They do it all the time though. It's like, they're just ridiculous. They drive like nuts. Yeah, and I only drive in.
Yeah.
You know, Robert's rules and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's just,
Oh, Robert's
the
rules.
drivers out there, I'm like,
Made sure to drive by all these properties today. Just saying.
I did this weekend, my husband and I went Saturday, and,
You get a book
two
about
of
it,
them, I
and
didn't
it's
do
also like
the,
a Google
pump
thing,
thing, but
but it's the way
I did that one.
the meetings are run. You have to have, like,
The house is incredible.
at the second discussion, and you vote on it,
The first one?
yea or nay.
Right, took pictures.
So if, for instance, you make a motion and you don't get a second, it's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So you don't
I
have to
didn't
argue.
know.
I drove by, I think it was just the property owner was there, but he was in the garage. I didn't see any cars in the driveway.
It was, I couldn't even really see. Of course,
You got kids and everything, or you're all by yourself?
like right on the.
I'm married, got 2 teenage boys.
Oh, congratulations, me too, I got one of each, a boy and a girl.
Oh my
I live
god.
over on Tioga Drive.
Oh,
My husband's like,
looking at a property there. Lot 21 or something, right around 50.
I think they go all the time, so it sounds like.
It's like,
I literally drove through there. I was like, I
yeah,
didn't even know
I
that
forget
house
the number,
was
but it
on
was, there was a
Belmont.
bridge,
Like, I've never gone up that way before.
and the property
when we were driving up,
undeveloped,
on GPS for
but the guy who owned that property owned the next 3 lots.
Yeah.
Nice guy, and I guess he was just going through a divorce or something. And,
I know, I was surprised
advertised,
too.
I said, I drove by this place, and I drove by
those were never
three
for
places.
sale.
No,
You know,
yeah.
like when we were looking, you know.
Yeah.
So no one's gonna find it the way you got it.
Out
I know where it is, I can't find it.
Winter, that is good, because I'm right on Union.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is such a good
Spray paint on a tree.
It really is.
And we had no idea. I had never even heard of the town of Belmont when we were house shopping. So I'm from Maine. Like my husband's from Maine, and we just wanted to be within 30 minutes of work. So we came right. It was like exactly 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
And since we moved in, I'm always like, this is the best location. I'm so close to everything. But there's not much traffic. You know, like it's just quiet.
Well, I like it.
Yeah, see, she needs prom ticket, $125. Thank you, Daddy.
When I went, they were $12.
12, wow.
Seriously, it feels like my house.
Mine, when I went, it was like corn.
Are you sure it's got
Couple
shots
pieces
on
of
some
corn.
doing like tannerite?
There you
or
go.
like
I know
explosions?
nothing about guns, okay?
Because the people behind us were like were popping off. Every once in a while, like the whole house would shake, and I'd be texting my neighbors,
Yeah.
"Is that right?"
Yeah.
And there's this guy out in the woods behind us, so you can't see. You can just hear him
Yeah.
every once in a
Yeah,
while.
I can't see them, but I can hear it.
Yeah.
And my neighbor to this side, her kids have a dog. And the one next to him has a little baby. I never see them or talk to them, and then it's them. And the guy next to me told us that. I guess, mother, I guess, is from, which one it is or both, but
Yeah.
there are days when it's boom, 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 like it's constant for hours.
It's an expensive hobby.
My husband, you know, he has bad anxiety. There he goes. What is he called? Rambo. Did you hear Rambo? Oh, yeah. Well, I'm trying to talk to people on my work phone.
Yeah.
And the person I was talking to from my office says, who's that? Well, that's my neighbor shooting. She goes, serious?
It's that close. I can hear it. That's the worst part about working from home is when like, for me, it's always like every time I answer the phone at home, my dogs all start barking, and I'm like, I have to apologize. I'm working from home today, so you may hear my dogs barking in the background. They only start when I pick up the phone, so they'll sit there quiet all day.
Attention.
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I work from home, they will sit there quiet all day until I answer the phone, and then they start barking. And it's always like leads. So I'm like, hi, thanks for calling. How can I help you? And then I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm working from home today. Don't mind my dogs. The rainforest. Oh, you have a full house tonight, huh?
I forgot to bring books for you guys. I have to do it next month.
I'm halfway through that book you gave me, Karen. I got second half to go, but it's good. It's good. Oh, don't ask me the name of it. It's just been on my end table for a month.
Did I give you the family across the street?
Yes, yes. That's what it was.
Our friends
I'm sure
aren't
they'll
here.
come. I'm sure they'll come straight. Late and loud and talking
Yeah.
out loud.
Yeah. We're missing people.
I know, I thought the same thing. Are we expecting Reese tonight?
I'm gonna guess by the attendance of the board that there's no one gonna be on Zoom.
Correct. And I don't have
We
anybody.
put full house in here, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the party, wasn't it?
It's after. I don't believe there is. I think you can't. They are registered.
Working good?
Can't,
What'd you say?
All the electronics going here, you know? Like flight control.
Right.
it's to determine.
How you doing?
Good.
So it's not for us to determine. They can rent that out. You know? It's just to determine the other space. That's all we're here for.
Right. Right.
If
That's what I
they-
thought. You
Yeah,
know, so,
yeah.
cause I was reading.
He needs to he has to
If
have
he
any-
has to do that,
Mhm.
so,
Um,
from what I read, that's what I surmised.
for the other things, it's not.
Mhm.
So, for example, because they take up building for the sign,
Right.
that's not,
Right.
we don't get to go, well, I don't believe, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're gonna
Yeah.
follow.
We're not the church.
Exactly, exactly.
Yep. Yep. Mhm. So is it packet day today? He tells you, he goes, look at when you come.
They're the best in there.
I know, you guys don't appreciate it in there, so I always try to do something nice.
Yeah, that is really nice. Couple that was in there, maybe it was just last month, the McCabe's, they would always bring in their Brothers Donuts. Have you tried Brothers Donuts
Yep.
yet?
I try to stay away from that stuff, like, I don't even have any.
Okay. Mm.
I have had a croissant though. Croissant that, Dunkin's, they had an almond. So I got one, so I had a pop.
We
Try
just
to stay away
found,
from that.
we just found at Market Basket.
Spitz the donut guy.
I am also a donut guy, so me and your husband have that.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
We found these, junk in your trunk when you have that stuff.
We found these like brioche rolls, so that they're like the chocolate
yeah.
inside,
Mhm.
all over it, yeah. It was like a 6-pack, we had them gone in 24 hours.
With the relish.
Sounds really good. Mm-hmm. I should try that. Yum.
One of the sugar shacks over Speedway. And we got some there, and I got some maple popcorn, and I realized, damn, that made it. It was, you know, this, just let me just try. Oh, I could've got that right across the bridge.
That's funny. You're like, yep, some good local, never
Well,
mind.
The syrup was, but.
Yeah.
But my husband's like, what the heck?
That's
Yeah,
something
well, at
good.
least they didn't relabel it, you know?
Yeah.
But-
Do you have like a recipe or do you just throw it together?
I think I have a recipe. I think I got it from, yeah. I'll dig it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had, we're going up to, we went to the lake house this summer for a week and all my siblings, nieces and nephews are all coming up.
Yep.
So I've been trying to plan these like big things.
Yeah.
One audience member is on Zoom and you are good to go.
Yep, good to go. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Belmont Zoning Board meeting of Wednesday, March 26, 2025. There is still participation available for Zoom for anyone that is out there. If any of those parties have experienced difficulties in accessing the meeting at any point, should call 603-267-8300, extension 101, and the meeting will be recessed until access can be restored for all parties. We have a good full board tonight, so any decisions made tonight will be granted as final decisions. We have no board members on the Zoom. Had there been, we would have to take roll call votes because of the members on the Zoom. So we'll be able to take a vote from the table by the members for a yea or nay on any application. No need to appoint anyone. Going in to the abutters first hearing, I'd like the rules of order because there's some new faces here, but the order of business will be the applicant's presentation to the board, followed by questions from the board to the applicant. Then I'll open the floor to the public, and they'll have a chance to speak direct to me. Any questions they have for the applicant, and a proper answer will be available. And please state your name as you speak, so we can have it for the record. Going on to the first abutters hearing of Robert Bodsignor. Applicant is proposing to convert the second story of an existing garage to a dwelling unit accessory to residential use. The applicant is requesting a special exception of Article 5, Table 1. Property is located at 193 Plummer Hill Road in an RS tax zone. Lot 211-027-000-000 and ZBA case number 01-25Z. Is there anybody here to represent that application tonight?
Mr. Chair, I do not see the applicant. Staff would suggest allowing the next applicant to present to give
Drop it.
Mr.
Yep.
Bonsignor a little extra time as you normally do.
Yep, no, drop it back. We'll go on to a second abutters hearing, which is Sunray Shores. This applicant is proposing to construct a new pump storage structure with associated parking and generator pad for the Sunray Shores Water District and is requesting the following relief. A variance of Article 5, Table 2 to construct a new pump storage structure close to the front property line, 11.4 than the allowed 50 required. And 2, a variance of Article 5, Table 2, to place a generator pad closer to the front property line, 5.5 than allowed 50 required. Property is located at a Lane Drive in the RS Zone, tax lot 104-044-000-000 and 107-116-000 and 107-117-000 and 107-118-000, case number 03-25Z. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Travis Austin. I work for Horizons Engineering. overview of the project, Sunrise Shores Water District is looking at replumbing Sunrise Shores, which went in the early 70s. As part of that, one of the things they need to do is to replace the existing pump and storage building, and to do that on the site of the existing structure does not work functionally. So they are proposing to use it, and they actually own 10 acres, basically the entire interior of Elaine Drive that sweeps around is all owned by the Sunrise Shores Water District. They've elected to put 4 of those lots. The trust fund and secure have reasons, I'm not going to go through them again, but there are 4 tax lots that are proposed to be merged. They were supposed to be merged Monday evening, but the planning board decided to play it safe rather than risk it for a merger. But these 4 lots will be merged. Largely that's being done to aggregate enough land to make it feasible to build on these lots at all. So I can go through the specific criteria that were put in the application, but the general gist of all of these lots is if you apply the residential or the RS setback to these lots, the front yard setback for the RS zone meets the 50-foot shoreline zone from the water, so there is literally no land to build on that complies with the setback. So what this design does is it allows compliance with the 50-foot setback from the shore. It also meets the town wetland setback. There's wetland in between the 50-foot reference line and the front property line, and provides some, as nominal as it is, setback from Elaine Drive. And I'm happy to answer any questions or go through the specific criteria if you'd like.
Questions from the board? First order of business is the current considerations. Does the application meet criteria for granting a variance? We believe it does. Is the property within the Aquifer Protection District? I believe it is. And is this a development of regional impact? In order to provide timely notice, provide opportunities for input and consideration of other interests, municipalities, the board shall act to determine if the development has a potential regional impact as defined by RSA 3655. Impacts may include, but are not limited to, relative size and number of dwelling units as compared to existing stock, proximity of the borders to a neighboring community, transportation networks, anticipated emissions such as light, noise, smoke, odors, or particles, proximity to aquifers and surface waters which transcend municipal boundaries, and shared facilities such as schools and solid waste disposal facility. Staff suggests there is no evidence of regional impact, and I would make the motion that does not have regional impact.
Second it.
And seconded by Mr. Mastenbrook. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Has been by the department, no responses from fire or police. Water and sewer had no issues or concerns at this time. Town administrator, no response and no concerns, down through the conservation, assessing and enforcement officer. The land use technician had some comments, and the comments were application is proposing to construct a new pump storage with associated parking and generator pad for the Sunrise Shore Water District, which meets most concerns from no staff. So are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple. So this is replacing an existing pump house somewhere else?
Correct.
Okay. And where this is going, this is a whole new location?
Correct.
So it's gonna feed, what, 5 people, 6, 4 people? How many people does this feed?
I honestly don't know the number of homes on the Sunrise Shore subdivision, but it's well north of 5 people.
Okay. And is this tested on a regular basis,
The pump house?
the water?
The well is, yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, the question you had before that, how many people does it serve?
Yes.
Is 100 water taps, so how many people do you have in a house?
Okay. Well,
Over a couple hundred.
residencies, and that's, I mean, that's houses, I guess we should have used the word instead of people. Okay. Is there any permitting from the state that's required for this?
There's a pending state shoreline permit.
The shoreline permit?
It's
And that's,
actually on hold at the moment only because we need to complete the merger before we'll grant the shoreline permit. But through the state shoreline permit, this is just under 4% of impervious of the merged lots, so well under the permissible coverage within the shoreline district.
okay.
I do have a question. You're being forced to the road because of the proximity of the 50-foot setback to the shoreland setback, is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Well, there's the 50-foot front yard setback, and if we were to comply with the 50-foot front yard setback, we'd be within the 50-foot shoreline setback, yeah. So I don't know who's pushing who where, but there's
Okay.
no land that's not
Okay.
within the setback on the parcel.
Okay. This is gonna be quite visible from the road then, am I correct?
I would presume so, yes.
Yes, okay. Is there any possibility, is there any room for, or do you have any intention of putting up any type of block, like foliage or, I'm not talking about a fence, right? I wouldn't wanna see a stockade fence there, I don't think anybody else would either. But, is there any thought put into somehow putting something on the premises to, because there's a house right across the street, right? To in some fashion block the view of this?
Conceivably.
Is that a possibility? It is is you saying it is a possibility? I don't know if the board's gonna say, yeah, we should make that a condition or not. I don't know that, but if that comes up as an issue.
That would come from the planning board when it gets to that stage of the game.
Okay, that's good, all right. At least for the record, we then have, we'd like to make a note to the planning board that at least somebody on the zoning board thought it might be appropriate, because there is a house right across the street, and, okay, thank you, Sharon.
And to that end, they haven't designed the building yet. For all I know, it's going to look like a single family.
Okay, so it's a little early to ask questions like this, but anyway, this can be forwarded perhaps to the planning board, and it would be a thought maybe. Thank you.
So do you have when you say they haven't designed a building yet, do you have a estimate of how big this building's going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be exactly the dimensions you have on here, approximately 1,500 square feet.
1,500? About the size of a small
House.
ranch house.
Yeah.
And it will have a commercial look to it, of course, right?
I just said they have not designed the building yet. I know the exterior
Okay.
dimensions.
Again, that would be something the planning board would address, but, okay. If you had the answer to that, and you said it's gonna be beautiful, and Frank Lloyd Wright came back from the grave to design it, we probably would grease the skids.
Not to blow smoke at the
Yeah,
zoning board meeting.
okay, no, I understand.
All good, John? Anyone, other board members have any questions? Is there anybody from the public that wishes to ask any questions on this application? The floor is open. Let the record show that no information from the, concerns from the public at this time.
Excuse me, just one quick question for you. If this was voted down, what would happen? I just asked that question because I'm sitting here trying to figure out hardships here. I know we got land hardships, but what is the repercussions if this doesn't go forward?
That would be up to the applicant to decide if they wanted to pursue another location. I don't know if they have other property that would not put them in a similar request.
Okay.
And I would be curious what the board's justification was for not granting a variance that has no land that isn't within the setback.
Okay. I just was wondering if the water situation down there is in dire need, this is why you're going to this step, or is this just something somebody wants to do?
No, they are not just whimsically deciding to replace their entire water system.
Okay, thank you.
So it has a consequence in the public welfare, is that what you're telling us?
I am not a water expert, but I imagine there is just.
There is a consequence to the public welfare, okay. That's important for criteria, I'm not trying to ask leading questions here. Yes, I am, but I just want to understand this better, right, yeah.
Excuse me, Don Simpson. I'm the head commissioner for Sunray Shores Water District.
If you have a statement to make, Mr. Chairman, can he speak now? Because if he
Yeah.
can, I'd like to have him up at the mic.
For our week he is.
Actually, the applicant. so-
Yep. Go ahead. Yeah, you have the floor.
So my name's Don Simpson. I'm the head commissioner for Sunray Shores Water District. Your question was, if we cannot proceed at this location, what will happen? Most likely, the project would get scrapped, and then the problem would come to 100 households coming up with water. So would it go to the town, for the town to redo the water system or not? There's problems now where it's so old, things keep breaking, and there is also the state's requirement about lead and things like that, and knowing what you have for pipes in the ground, which we do not know, nobody knows. So, to answer the question, it'd probably get scrapped. And I don't know,
Yeah. Okay,
because we do not own other property in the area where we could put something. The existing pump house, that property's not big enough to do what you have there,
okay,
okay?
thank you, yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns?
I'm good.
Does anybody on the board feel there's some criteria that this may not meet in the request for variances, 2 variances? Questions out? We'll go forward with the, asking for a motion. We'll take the 2 variances separate. They can, I believe, our staff can end up with the second variance with the same language.
Yes, you can,
But-
you can reciprocate the language. The only other, just staff would suggest adding the condition regarding that the approval be contingent upon the voluntary lot merger at Monday's planning board meeting, but that's just
Thank you.
boilerplate language.
Boyd, willing to take a motion, on a motion to grant or deny the request for either variance or both variances?
Okay, I will make a motion to, there's 2 variances. You're gonna require 2 motions. So I would like to make a motion to grant a variance to Article 5, Table 2, to construct the new pumps storage structure closer to the front property line, 11.4 feet, than is allowed. 50 feet is required. Having met the following criteria. First, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The variance is not contrary to the public interest, nor does it conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance. It doesn't alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and an effort might be made to assure that the aesthetics of the property are in keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood. There's no threat to public health, safety, or welfare. And additionally, it is, the public welfare is served through the essential need of water, and this project will assure that water is available to the public. The second criteria is the spirit of the ordinance is observed, and we can use the exact same language in the second criteria as we did in the first. The third criteria is substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or to other individuals, and we've established that there is no harm to the general public. And any loss not granting would actually cause a loss to the general public, and therefore this would not serve substantial justice. The fourth criteria, the variance would not diminish the value of surrounding properties. The surrounding properties are dependent upon a reliable source of water, and without a reliable source of water, the property values would be diminished. The applicant has said that an effort could be made to keep the character of the neighborhood as it's established by perhaps using some aesthetic barriers. So the values of the surrounding properties are not diminished. And finally, the fifth criteria, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. The hardship as intended by the law is not hardship to the applicant, but rather a hardship created by the property. The property, we know, has a shoreline setback that has to be observed. And we also have another situation that increases this hardship, and that's the need for the water in the area. So it does satisfy the criteria of literally enforcing this would exist in a necessary hardship for not just the applicant, but also for the entire neighborhood. There are also additional conditions that we will attach to the motion. All representations made by the applicant during the public hearing are incorporated as a condition of this proposal, or approval, I mean. The applicant and owner are solely responsible to comply with the approved plan and conditions of approval. Contractor should be sufficiently warned regarding the same. And finally, approval expires on March 26th, 2027. If use is not substantially acted on, and if an extension is not granted. Approval also expires if use ceases for more than 2 years. And that would conclude the first motion.
Could I add another condition to that, please? Condition being that they get DES shoreline approval first?
I would agree with that, and you can add that to mine. Doesn't have to be an amendment. Mr. Chairman, you would like to speak?
Yes,
First, relative to what?
Before you start building.
DES permit, make sure you have your DES.
We can add that language to it before you start building.
That would be, the planning board can, I mean, that's a given, it's part of the standards through the planning board, all
Yeah.
state and local permitting has to be in place prior to any construction, that's a
Yeah.
standard planning board condition.
So
But we
there's
al-
no
we-
harm
we
in
always
adding
throw-
it either.
Yeah, we always throw it in there as a zoning board,
Right.
anything near the water.
I would like to add it to my motion, please. That would conclude my motion, including the
Motion.
phrase that Mr. Masterbrook
I'll
just said.
second the motion.
We have a motion on the floor for the first variance. Mark is seconding it.
Yep.
I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? You're on your way.
Okay, do we need a second motion?
Yes.
Okay. I will make a motion to grant the second variance to Article 5, Table 2, to place a generator pad closer to the front property line, 5.5 feet than is allowed, 50 is required. I will use the exact same language, including the added sentence at the end. And that would conclude that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
The motion that has been seconded to approve. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Good luck as you go.
Yep.
Thank you for working with the board and the staff. No one's here for the first application, so,
So at this point,
at this point.
we'll move to the next application.
We'll take up number 3, a butters hearing for Revision Energy. This applicant is proposing to install a commercial solar farm on 6 acres of land within the lot. The application Applicant is requesting a variance of Article 5, Table 1, zoning district table of permitted uses. Property is located on Mile Hill Road in the rural and residential single-family zones. Tax lot 205-037-000-000 and ZBA case number 0425Z. Do you need a minute, John? Yes,
Didn't
must
hear
go
you.
out.
Yeah, he's in the He's in the closet.
We're guessing he's in hearing range. So, welcome.
I'm always in hearing range.
The first order of business is the history was a subdivision back in 2001. Current consideration, does it meet criteria for granting a variance? We believe it does. 2, property is within the Aquifer Protection District. And 3, is this a development of regional impact? And I'll be smart about that and introduce the same language as I did in the last application. It's rather lengthy. And need a motion to move that the proposal does or does not have a potential regional impact.
I'll make a motion that it does not.
We have a motion that does not. Have a second?
Seconded.
Have a second. It does not have impact.
Yeah, he's an alternate member that hasn't been seated.
Pardon?
I think that came from Tom.
No, it came from,
Oh, I'm sorry. You're good.
Uh,
Without my glasses, I couldn't tell where it came from.
Did you make the motion?
yes.
Yeah, it's been motion and seconded.
I don't think you're not seated. Wait a minute, hold it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't make a motion.
Why?
Yeah, no, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're good. Susan's an alternate.
Got you covered, brother.
I voted for you.
So, motion on the floor has been seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstention, motion passes. Departmental responses. Fire and police had no concerns or response. Sewer and water had issues or no issues or concerns. Town administrator, no response. No concerns from building code enforcement officer. Conservation Commission, the Conservation Commission has concerns that should be considered. Can the land use tech and/or Conservation Commission member visit the wetlands to ensure they are considering a non-prime wetlands? And also, the plan is to enclose the 6 acres with fencing, needing to confirm it does not impact wildlife travel corridor or significant wetlands habitat. Assessing has no concerns, and land use has a concern. Basically, applicant is proposing to install a commercial solar farm on 6 acres of land within the lot. The applicant is requesting a variance to Article 5, Table 1, zoning district table of permitted uses. Welcome, and you have the floor.
Alright, my name is Heather Iworski. I'm with Revision Energy, the solar company leasing the land from the property owner. Yes, good evening. This is Sarah Mirsky. So, I will begin. So, we are leasing about 6 acres of this 30-acre piece of land to hopefully construct a solar energy system that can be used for a community solar farm. So anybody who has electric with Eversource, the utility, is welcome to buy into this farm. Could be municipal, could be neighbors, could be anything. I don't know yet. This is still a concept. That's why we're here, to see if we can get a variance. Because this land is in 2 different zoning districts that don't allow the commercial solar, this is, ultimately why we're here. So with that said, we did our due diligence. We did have a wetland scientist go out and view the property. They did everything they could to map out that basically the entire 30.66 acres. Came back with a map and a report and reduced our buildable area down to 6 acres. So that's why we're looking at 6 acres, because we don't want to touch the wetlands. We want to stay outside of that 50-foot buffer. And we also need to stay outside of, the other issue is the easement with Eversource, because there are 2 corridors with the high transmission feeding the area. So that has to be remained open. It's also used for snowmobile trail, and then to the west of the property, you can see the snowmobile trail also continues around. So the goal is to not interfere with wetlands, not interfere with the Eversource right away, and keep enough green and forest around the solar array so it's not in view of the abutters, or even the Murphys at their farmhouse. So, responses and variance criteria. So, kind of merged 1 and 2, like you did the last time. So it's not contrary to the public interest, and if granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. So this is definitely not going to adversely affect surrounding properties or public interest, and will be in keeping with the spirit of the town's regulations. So like I said, the area is out of sight from abutters and will be screened from neighbors by a substantial buffer of, the existing forest. So some of this land does have to be cleared for the solar and then the fence that goes around it, and I'll get into the fence details soon. But we plan to keep, there is a clear no-cut buffer, and that is part of our lease agreement with the Mercy Trust. So the existing utility transmission corridors will still be used as access to get there, which is fine. That's why they're there. They're right-of-ways. But we're not building anything inside of those corridors, so nothing's going to be in there. So a solar energy system, this is going to be mounted on racking and have the foundations are, say, 3-inch foundations that are minimal disruption to the earth. We're not talking concrete. We're not talking about huge areas of earth being moved for large foundations. We're just talking about little holes going into the ground that hold up this solar energy system. Again, outside of the wetlands and outside of any kind of steep hills. So basically, this is a passive energy system. It doesn't move. There's no moving parts. It doesn't make noise. There's no lights. The solar panels are not going to produce glare. It is adverse for the manufacturers. If the solar panels were to produce glare, nobody would buy them because they wouldn't absorb the sunlight. So it defeats the whole purpose. So they have to be matte. The only, the minimal amount of light would be on the inverters, and that would be in one small area, and it would be like a little LED dot, like you see when your TV's on or something like that. And that's when the system's in operation. At nighttime, the system's not in operation because the sun's not shining, so it's just gonna sit there quietly and hang out till the sun comes out again. Noise, like I said, the panels don't move, so there's no noise. There is a fan in the inverters to keep them cool, but the fan it's similar to like a low whisper in a crowded room, I would say. You're not gonna hear it. You're not even gonna know that it's there, especially in the location it's in. But that said, there's also, it's built to code. So we have to follow the fire code. We have to follow the National Electric Code. So the fence, the wiring, everything's inspected. So this is truly safe for the surrounding area. Eversource has to agree, the building inspector has to agree, fire department, they all didn't see any issues with it. So it's built safe, it's built to code, and it will be surrounded by a security, wildlife-friendly fence. All the grass, all the soil underneath, so we do have to do some significant land clearing for the 6 acres. That's all gonna be revegetated. So we like the environment, obviously, we like solar. So the goal is there's about 3 feet from grade to the bottom of the panels once all is installed. So there'll be some local, native grasses, there might be a wetland mix, there might be, I don't have it narrowed down to what type of grass will be planted there, but it's gonna be suitable to say, we could have a shepherd come over and take care of the grass to make sure it's not, gonna tangle inside of the array. There's multiple options for that to keep it very eco-sustainably focused. And I know there's some shepherds in the actual area that are interested in doing that. So everything will go back to normal except for there'll be solar instead of a forest. However, it'll be surrounded by a buffer of trees. So I mentioned no noise, not be visually obtrusive. It's set back within property lines. It's away from the wetlands. Everything's going to follow the NEC 690, maintain clearances by NEC 110, labeled per code, and it's not going to threaten any public health, safety, or welfare. So I'll jump into the fence in a little bit. So 3, granting the variance will do substantial justice. All right, so this land, this piece of land, as you can see, is full of wetlands. It has 2 right-of-ways for the transmission corridors for Eversource. It's a very difficult area to develop. Can you subdivide it? Yes, you can do anything with enough money and enough time. But the least impact, I think the best way to develop this and still keep it as this, green space, I think is this, that's why we're here. It's a revenue for the owners, and it's a revenue for the town. Right now, this land is in current use, so the taxes are not there. So as soon as this is taken out, you're getting 6 acres of that tax penalty and then tax income. The snowmobilers are going to be happy. Nothing's changed for them. The animals are going to be happy. The wildlife fence that's surrounding this has a gap on the bottom so critters can move in and out. It's safe for turtles, for all small habitat. The grasses planted are going to be friendly to the area. Proper permitting obviously will be pulled as needed. The other reason why this location is good for this type of solar, to do a system this large, you have to have access to 3-phase power. And this is perfect in that Eversource corridor. It's near 3-phase power. It's not too far from the substations, and it is a developable piece of land. Once the system's built, you're not going to have traffic going in and out. There's no weekly inspections or anybody there full time to maintain it. It hangs out. Maybe once a year, we might do a routine maintenance, and then twice a year it'll be mowed or grazed. So we're not going to see much movement, no traffic in the roads. Nothing like that would change as something would with a subdivision. And granting the variance does not diminish the values of the surrounding property. So let me just back up 1 second. So if we don't do this array, so we're going to lose the power to the grid. So we're thinking that, again, this is concept. We don't know who ultimately is going to buy this. But say this is going to produce 2,278 megawatt hours of clean electricity. So somebody is going to be benefiting from this. It could be the town, like I said. It could be a local business, or it could be just a local group of people who want to buy in because they can't put solar on their roof, or they don't have the land for it. That's why these are a great option, and that's why New Hampshire said, yeah, let's start doing these because our neighboring states have done them for years and years, so why not? It's a great location, we went over that. Also, in the summertime, say it hits 85, 90, it's humid, everyone's running their ACs. This is going to prevent all that, that peak when the grid hits peak power and you lose your power. The transformers blow or the substation can't handle it. This is actually going to help the grid and benefit because it's producing the electricity that the grid can't keep up with. So this is why grid-tied electric or grid-tied solar electric is also beneficial for the grid because they can't keep up with some of the high peak power loads. So it does not diminish the values of surrounding properties. I've researched this and I've been doing this for 14 years and there are not, you might find an article here and there in California because they've been doing this for a long time, you're really not gonna see that this is gonna diminish property values. There is nothing in writing that says that's gonna happen. I haven't seen it. I've seen people sell their homes and make money because they have solar, or, you know, I've never seen it the other way around. Typically, a burden, like, if you're gonna diminish property value, it's because there's an environmental burden or a landfill leak, or it's, you know, there's a burden on schools or public safety, increased traffic, foreclosed or neglected roads, or, so this isn't going to do any of that. And now for the fun part, unnecessary hardship. That's why we're here. So I mentioned, it's a unique property, special conditions. We have the wetlands, we have the easements, you know, we have the recreational trails, and then we have the 2 zones that it's in. So it's in the rural and single family districts. So in the zoning ordinance, agricultural solar and residential solar are permitted in both. So if the Murskys wanted to just get solar for them, like that, we wouldn't be here right now. However, because this is meant to be used by more than one person, that's why we're here. So it's commercial solar, but that's what it's called. That's your description of what this is commercial solar for Belmont. You can get commercial solar though with a special exemption in the rural zone. So again, this is in 2 different zones, and we can't really just build it in one because of the hydric soils and the wetlands. So we can't say, oh, well, the rural zone, like, let's do that. Like, it's not possible in this case. The land just isn't suitable for that. And I don't think the Conservation Commission would appreciate us building in that area either. And then non-residential uses located on a property containing more than one zone shall to conform to the stricter dimensional regulations applied to the whole parcel. So per this rule, a variance would be required to pursue commercial solar. So again, because it's in 2 zones, that's why we're here. So not 1, but 2 utility transmission corridors are in this property and border it. The wetlands to the west and southeast of the site are there, and you don't want to disturb it. And then we can't put it anywhere else on the property because of that, and we narrowed it down to the 6 acres. It's important to know that 24 acres of this land is going to stay in current use. It's going to stay protected. It's going to stay used as whatever it's used for now. We're not touching or developing any of that. That is completely outside of this conversation and our lease agreement with the Mursky Trust. So we are only focused on 6 acres. And then I just want to say again, we're going to use a wildlife fence. So this is going to be fenced in by a 7-foot high fence that is required by the National Electric Code. It has to be 7 feet high. The wildlife fence is, it's like a metalish fence, but it's not a chain link. It's, I don't know, it's a fine, you can barely know it's there, and there's a gap on the bottom. So it's just a more friendlier fence than like, oh my God, it's not like a prison fence. There's something crazy going around the site. So the proposed use is a reasonable one because, again, it's a passive use. It does not adversely affect land and surrounding property with noise, traffic, or visual impacts. This land is ideal for solar development over possible subdivision. It's way less impact to the environment, to the neighborhood, the town, by doing it this way versus a subdivision. The land's fairly flat, surrounded by utility easements and wetlands that limit, other development options. And it's just a way to utilize this land with minimal impact, like I said, as opposed to traditional development. So I think that kind of sums up the application itself, and I am more than happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I have one. How long is the lease for?
The lease, well, right now, we're in the early stages of just a development lease, so I think we have a 4-year agreement or 5-year option. It's an option right now, and if we have until the end of that option period, and the Mercies can say yay or nay, like, I don't wanna continue this. So everything that we're doing here is Revision Energies. It's on Revision Energies.
So let's say in 5 years, you guys go through and build it, and then she says, I don't want it anymore. Do you guys rip it out of there?
No,
It's a 25-year lease if we agree to go ahead with it. So I hopefully we'll still be alive when it ends.
Do you know, is this brand of solar panels, is it gonna look like this? All these little things for the whole,
no, we're not to the site plan right now, but the brand of, with the economy and everything, we don't know what the brand of solar panels is gonna be in a few years.
Cause I thought they were trying to make them smaller. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Like I said, I've been doing this for 14 years, and they're maybe like, they've increased by 100 watts, if that, but they're still the same size. They got more efficient, but they're still 3x5, pretty much. They're still the same size panel. They have gotten to be more on like the black matte side versus that blue grid. So that's like the biggest difference, I think.
And does snow or, you know, anything else affect these?
So, snow, obviously, the snow will land on them. If it's sticky enough, they'll stay. They're at a 35-degree tilt facing south, so that's ideal, optimal. Any snow that's there, it's gonna melt off. It's gonna melt off really fast. The panels are gonna be warm. They're pretty much black. Think of it like a metal roof. Like, how long does the snow stay on a metal, pitched roof? It's exactly that. And there's no need to go over to clean the panels. The rain's gonna do that. Just everything that's designed and built in, and with the production estimates, takes into consideration that area's climate, precipitation, snowfall, engineered snow loads. So the engineer is gonna come back and say, yes, this meets, the snow loads in Belmont, and so forth.
And how close is another of these farms to this area? I mean, is it like 50 miles away or 100 miles away?
I don't know. This is new for New Hampshire. The only solar farm that I know is built right now from us is in Kingston, and Unitil owns it. And that's a tracking array. This is newer. New Hampshire never allowed over a megawatt, even over 100 kilowatts was impossible. So these systems take years to develop. So we're not there yet. I mean, there might be by other installers, but I don't know of any.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
Just a couple of quick questions. What percentage of your project rests in the rural property? I didn't see any lot lines or...
Yeah, that's a good question. So I do have the... barely any of it. So the orange is the residential single family, and the green is the rural, and it's really just a tiny bit.
Yeah,
Maybe 10, maybe 5, 10%.
well, that's a good answer, because it would depend. Belmont was very considerate to allow solar in every zone as a use on their property, but when it came to commercial and the big stuff, they were more concerned that these properties weren't affected, because there are studies that show the farms do impact habitat, the water, contamination off. It's not the solar panels that are so much, there's metals that can come from harm from a cracked solar panel, but the generators and that system and stuff are the things that are the radiation generators that can over time form pollutants and stuff through soils and stuff. Those were studies that they've had, but your approach to your application was very well stated of your concerns for those items and stuff. So, and there's a life expectancy, never knowing by the weather what might have damage wearing out, and replacing and stuff. The solar panels, they still haven't found a place to put them when they fail.
We actually have, so, there are places now. So I don't have all the details in front of me, because we have a dedicated team in our company doing that. We're a certified B corporation, so to do that, you have to prove your, not only your financial health, but your environmental health and your data. And if you don't recycle everything and have X, Y, Z, and what do? You know, where are you putting all of your solar panels? That's all documented somewhere. I will say the screws that go into the ground for the foundation, they're steel and they are non-toxic. So it's, I mean, when I get to the planning board stage, if we get to that, that's where you'll get it, data sheets and all of that information.
I'll go one step further, is that there was concerns with the surrounding properties for aesthetics and whatever effects, and the water habitat, and you answered to that, you answered to those items, which comforts me.
Thank you.
I have a question for Karen. Why don't we need two variances if there's two zones?
It's both in the residential single and rural zone. In the rural zone, it's by special exception. The more strict applies, and if you receive a variance, you don't need to receive a special exception.
Oh, so the variance is okay because it covers the special exception, so there's nothing needed in. Got it.
That's why I was concerned about the percentage.
May I ask a question of them?
Absolutely.
Sure. The plans that I have here, unless I'm missing some, don't have the distance from the road to the fence line. Do you have an estimate of roughly what that is?
Not off the top of my head. I know everything's within setbacks, so the distances are mostly noted on here between the wetland line, not the road itself. I don't wanna just throw a number out, cause again, it's a concept until we're.
Yeah, I really wish I had put that, because I do agree with you. It's pretty clear, I think, to the board that looking at this, it's far enough back, but we typically would want that distance on there.
We're granting them the use, and they go to the board, the zoning board.
I'm sorry?
We're granting them the use. What they're
I'm
asking.
sorry, because she's making noise over there. Keep loud.
Yeah. We're being asked to grant the use, and then it would go to the planning board for the dimensions, requirements, locations, and all.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about setbacks, about, a variance setback. We don't need, I'm trying to establish, which I think is pretty clear, and you said it too, we don't need a variance for setbacks, but I'm just trying to establish that it is far enough back, and I think that we can say subjectively it is far enough back, okay. Because it's not on the plan. Typically, we ask for a plan with the dimensions on it.
Yeah, I'd be worried they'd spend
But
money if
the
they
other,
didn't
the
get
other
the
thing that
use.
really excited this thought was that the characteristics of the power line are such that it leaves the traveled way at about a 30-degree angle back and away from it. And I got out of the car and I walked over there and I saw where the wetland was and we dropped back and everything. And so it seems to me, and you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong here, but that from the road, once there's foliage on the trees, that because of this angle, I see Ms. Mursky agreeing, I'm traveling down the road this way, the power line goes this way, I look to my left, I see trees, I might be able to see the solar panels. But immediately, if I'm driving along at 30 miles an hour, that view is gone, because because of that angle, there's another blockage. So, one of my questions would have been, as I had with the last applicant, what are you gonna do about the aesthetics? Are you planning any foliage or anything to block the view? I think, would it be fair to say that thanks to the characteristics of the high line that goes through there, that you're using than the already grown, trees and what have you in there to block the view. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the trees will stay, you don't know what you're gonna get till you do the stumping and the land work. I mean, it's not out of the possibility, you know, when we get to site plan review, that one of the conditions is to make sure it's screened by a butter A or the road or something, like, there's always a way to include more landscaping.
Yeah, yeah, I understand it. It seems like there's no need, well, in fact, the wetland is between the solar, part of the wetland, between the solar panels and the road. So that's gonna be a hands-off area anyway.
Yep.
So you really can't go in there. I would be concerned that, you're taking trees out or something that, my concern, it runs kind of parallel to Chairman's there too, because it is a residential, it's a zoned residential, and it looks to me like it would be a hard go to try and say that the people could see this thing from the homes on the other side of the street. Because of that angle, because of that 90, when I say the other side of the street, I mean on this side here. Yeah, it seems that way anyway, but I think it would have been helpful though if you put the footage on. Yeah, okay. All right. I don't really have any other questions.
I have a question, actually. When you stated earlier that it's gonna be a benefit to the town itself, due to the solar, does that power piggyback into Eversource's power grid, or is it shared grids?
It is, so electricity follows the path of least resistance. So the actual electricity is going to go right back to the grid and give electricity to Mercy residents, to all the neighbors. It's just gonna go down the line and feed everybody. But the like the monetary value, like the kilowatt hour credit, that's metered, and that will benefit the buyer, which we don't know who that is yet. It could be the town. It could be the town. The town will also benefit from the taxes they will receive from taking this area out of current use.
So this would, in fact, benefit the power going back into Eversource, but not New Hampshire Electric Co-op's grid? Because
No,
Belmont is shared with the two power systems.
they all share, so it may, they may share some of the poles and the lines, and it may overlap. So it will eventually probably help, like somewhere down the line, wherever that grid electricity is being produced. I don't know how they're producing it here, whether it's coal or whether it's, I don't know what they're using, natural gas, where it's coming from. But this will instead be distributed to the neighborhood for use after it's gonna be metered and then just go out to the grid. So yes, if the New Hampshire Electric Co-op is right there, I mean, they'll benefit from it. But the study is all the studies are with Eversource. We've already filed that supplemental impact study. So that's actually being reviewed right now to make sure that the capacity of this inverter and this system is not gonna be too much for the current infrastructure with the grid. So we don't have like an answer, like, I know that we're gonna have to install a transformer and, we're closers, and we'll have, our own disconnects, private disconnects, and the utility will have their own recloser, because everything's redundant in their disconnects. But, I don't know downstream of that, whether or not anything has to be upgraded with the substation.
Okay. And additionally, so I can get this right and understand it, your construction impact, I assume that's the route that you're going to take to be bringing these materials in?
We're gonna use the existing, there's like a bouldery area for staging, or it's already clear there, it's already the Eversource's right away. So we're gonna use
On the other side of Eversource's transmission line right away, I can see you have to get through a piece of wetland.
Yeah, so that will have to go through, I don't know if that will be a culvert or what will happen there, but that will be special permitting. So what we'll need to do with the town is get a 911 permit, a driveway permit, and address. This is gonna have its own meter, so it's gonna have its own address. It's gonna have its own 911 address too. It's gonna be its own like entity. And, you know, the DES, because it's such a minimal impact, the culvert, like we can create a way of how to access that. It's gonna be, we have to have like a permanent access there for emergency vehicles and for maintenance vehicles to get through. But as you can see, the wetlands all throughout already, what Eversource has built up. So whatever's, you know, like this area has already been disrupted in some way. We don't want to disrupt it anymore, but if it comes down to it and we do need to pull the proper DES permits, we'll do that.
Okay,
You know,
thank you.
but it would only be for, as you pointed out, that area, because we want to avoid anything in the surrounding wetlands.
Right.
The other thing that happens with this is an AOT permit, an alteration permit with the DES. So the DES, no matter what, is getting their eyes on this. These all go through a civil engineering firm. We do the electric part and we can build these systems. We're not civil engineers, so we work with a civil engineer when we get to that site plan, and down to the pieces, and we'll do the geotech analysis, you know, we'll do the snow load analysis, the wind load analysis, we'll do the, you know, the culvert and DES permits and the access, and all of that calculations will be done down the road. This is like we're in the early steps.
Other questions?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of clearing here. So, I mean, you're taking out 6 acres of trees pretty much, right? So, how many solar panels estimated?
May I say something? Yeah, I'm Sarah Mursky. So this land was previously owned by Karen Feltham, Blue Sky Enterprises. I don't know if you folks remember her. Many years ago, she developed most of Mile Hill, which used to be the old Philbrook estate. It used to actually be part of our estate, the Gilman's land, back in the late 1700s. And so when Karen approached us, it was the last parcel that she had yet to develop. She had already logged the land. She had logged everything she could on that 30 acres. And it was in preparation for a subdivision. There were 7 or 8 test pits. So I believe she had 7 lots planned for this northeastern piece of the property. So, and that was 25 years ago that this happened. And so she approached us as a consideration, saying, listen, you know, I'm going to put 7 houses in here, unless you guys want to buy it. Of course, I was, you know, quite young and in school and not even living in the state, and borrowed money and got a loan from Laconia Savings Bank. And a land loan, which they no longer make, as you know, these days, after the 2008 debacle. So anyhow, we bought it and were able to, you know, prevent that subdivision from happening. But there's really very little value right here, right now, in those trees. We've had this property surveyed as, again, another way of perhaps generating some revenue. What can be done with this piece of land that is not subdivision? And it basically, for the cost to cut this down, the value of those trees is basically going to pay for the cost to cut them down. There's no big win for us. So none of that is your beautiful old growth, you know, trees that used to be there. That value was taken out 25 years ago by Karen Winter. She was planning for the subdivision and was performing all of the test pits. In fact, if you go in there now, I mean, the junk trees that are in there are just, it's pretty much all junk. I mean, I'm just going to say it's like poplar. I mean, poplar's great for grouse, but it's not a real
tree for long-term tree management. We are now a certified tree farm, we have a forester, and he's looking at the remaining 24 acres of this parcel and how to actually bring that back. What can we do to actually encourage growth and prosperity in the remaining 24 acres? But again, from our perspective, our efforts were, we didn't want to subdivide the land. It's very difficult and expensive to subdivide the land. I think at the moment, we're probably the only farmstead left on the top of that hill. Now that Bishop has gone to, the Bishop farm has now gone to subdivision, as you know, there are 8 houses going in there. So we're, the pressure is intense for subdivision up there, and this is our way, or really, I'll say it my way, of for the next 25 years, not having any subdivision on that property, if we get permission to do this.
Yeah.
I'll be 80 by the time that this lease is over, and hopefully my sons will be employed and can afford the taxes on the farm. In the meantime, this is hopefully gonna help pay for those taxes and keep this property in our family and as it is today. So that's my plan, that's my goal, that's why we're doing this. What is the lowest impact use? How can I make some money on this without subdividing it?
Just a curiosity question, did they stump it after they treat it?
They didn't stump it, no. She made many trails. Some of those trails you can still see. The stumps are still there. She did not clear it, not the way you're talking about.
So you guys are gonna have to do that to
That
put the
stumpage
farm.
will be done by revision.
But
Yeah,
that's my
but
curiosity,
the spruce can. they
another
don't like wood.
expense. No, that's not the fun part of tree cutting.
Yeah.
But the benefits to the solar array, it's 40-year lifetime systems, the expectancy, I've seen them, the Beverly High School in Massachusetts, that thing's been running, it's over 50 years, I think. But 40 years of life expectancy, there's totally a decommissioning plan, everything can come right out and be recycled. The screws just literally unscrew out of the ground, it's like a Lego set, you can take apart and then do that. You can't add on to it, but you can definitely remove it.
The other thing that we have is, as part of our option agreement with revision, is that our forester is working closely with us and them to make sure that when that work does happen on that 6 acres, that there isn't any detrimental effect to the trees that are in the buffer zone. So in other words, he has to work closely with either the person that they hire or the person that we hire to perform the work to make sure that when those trees are falling, they're not damaging the trees that we want to save and preserve in the buffer zone. The buffer zone is very important to us and presumably to the neighbors as well. So I don't want to see this thing any more than anybody else, and I mean, not that I think it's going to look terrible, but still, it's, I'm very sensitive to that kind of stuff. So, I don't think we've been the easiest as a landowner for them to deal with, but they have been fantastic. We were approached by multiple companies for this parcel, and frankly, other companies offered us more. The reason that we chose revision was, A, they actually understood our interest in agrivoltaics, which is when you do allow shepherds to come in with their sheep and to keep the grass around the solar panels clear versus, just mowing it. We like the idea of gardening or perhaps wildflowers growing, low-growing plants in that area. I love that idea. Also, many of the firms that we talked to besides revision were not interested in putting in a wildlife fence. They insisted on a chain link fence and they insisted on surrounding it with arborvitaes. And I said, we have a lot of deer up there. I said, the arborvitaes the whole bottom of the arborvitaes
It's gonna be gone.
Why are you planting arborvitaes around, in Belmont? So it just didn't make sense. So, these guys actually understand it. I think they've done really good work in other places and they're very sensitive to the landowner's needs and wants. And, we've been up there over 100 years, 106 years. We want to have minimal impact, but we do need to generate some revenue, frankly, for covering costs of utilities and taxes and how to keep this farm, a farm for as long as I'm alive, frankly. So I'm not supposed to control from the grave, which is why it's a 25-year lease. But ultimately, I'm hoping it's beneficial enough for my sons to actually say, let's keep this going, that this is a good thing, low impact, no noise, no lights, and it generates revenue. So that's what I'm hoping.
So, just so we're clear, and hopefully I word this correctly without offending anybody, but financials have nothing to do with our variances.
Yes,
you know, whether it benefits the town or not, that's not our decisions to be made. We don't base our decisions based on that. But I do have a few concerns, because I did quite a bit of research today on solar farms, and the biggest complaint is people abandoning them. And it happens. So, I mean, you can sit there and dot all the i's, across the t's, but they could be out of business in 6 years or something. God forbid it doesn't happen, but then they're gone. And now who's left to clean it up? Also too, a lot of solar panels, and since you don't know which ones you're using, also have hazardous waste. If the shield gets busted on them, there's hazardous waste that gets released. This, with wetlands and everything else, is a concern, right? And then my biggest problem is, you're saying that you're going to just generate, so you're no storage on site, correct?
No battery storage.
Okay, so inverters, when you have them in your house, they make a small sound. When you see solar farms, because if you go down to Massachusetts, they have them everywhere. They have the big inverters. And then as the draw goes up, the sound goes up, and it's a high-pitched sound. And it can get as high as 80 dBs. So I don't know how many inverters you plan on having here. One thing I would recommend is to get them as far away from any residence house as possible, because they do make a noise. Yeah, I know you kept saying they don't make a noise, and there's no noise. Inverters do make noises. And if anybody's got it in your house, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you go down in anybody's basement that has one, you can hear it. It's a high-pitched whine sound. And but a lot of homeowners don't like it in their houses. So now people are starting to put them outside. And then that affects neighbors as a draw goes. So this is something I want our board to consider. But I do, the couple of things is the maintenance. Somebody walking away, and we got the poor residents along that road now have all that crap sitting out there because nobody took care of it. Who's gonna come and inspect this? And you said once a year. I don't know if once a year is sufficient. If you have a big hailstorm and you start busting those things up, you got a problem. And we don't get a lot of hailstorms, but there's times we do. And, you know, sometimes a softball size. So, there's a lot to take in. When you said, oh, we don't want a subdivision, I got news for you. You'd have a better chance of putting a subdivision in this land right now, because it's zoned. You wouldn't even be here for that. You'd just be in front of the planning board. So what you're asking us to do is take a commercial application and to put it into a residential zone. I don't know if too many times have we done that on the zoning board, maybe a couple, but they've had very low impact. And mostly it's a landscaping business, if I'm not mistaken, that we've done a couple times. But this is pretty big. And then when you start talking 6 acres, over 1,000 panels, that's a lot of things that can go wrong. And you can shake your head at it, and maybe I'm over exaggerating it, but I did do, I watched quite a few YouTubes today, and I did a lot of reading today. And one of the biggest, like I said, the biggest problem is no maintenance. People take off. Who are they gonna call if those inverters start acting up and start getting loud? It's just, if you're a neighbor.
I can answer all of that
Okay.
when you're done.
Go ahead. I'm
All
throwing a
right.
lot at you, so.
Hazardous. So all of our equipment is tier 1. It's not hazardous. It's just not. I mean, like I said, I'll get the data sheets once I have them. Everything is warranted. It's insurance backed. So say the inverter manufacturer or the panel manufacturer go under, it's insurance backed. If we go under, it's insurance backed. They're not hazardous material. They're not. They are glass with silica and
Okay.
sand, and wire. The sound, have you hung out under this high transmission corridor?
Yeah.
Hang out there.
Matter of fact,
Tell me how you
I
feel
live
up
I live
there.
right next to it. I live right down the railroad tracks, and
Yeah.
they're right there.
Those-
I understand what you're saying. There's a high pitched sound there too.
Those
Yes.
are environmentally impactful. I think we ignore that because we're used to seeing telephone poles and wires, but I think we're just embedded. Our culture is just not there yet. Solar's new and shiny and oh my goodness, there's so many things. But the sound, I would you're talking like many volts, many volts. We're talking 600 volts on this solar array, and you're talking like 40,000, whatever. I don't know, there's like
Yeah, well, there's 46,000 and 23,000 on the power
a
lines.
lot of voltage is going through that. So there's different studies that we can dig into that go down that road. All the inverters, they do have studies for noise, just like all the panels have studies for glare. So those data sheets will come out when, when we decide. We already think we know what we're gonna install, because we know what we're installing now, but in 2 years or a year, that may change, especially with tariffs right now. But I can say all of them are top tier in insurance fact. As for abandoning them, so there's gonna be a buyer. It's not us, say it's not Mercy. Somebody has their money on the line. They're expecting an income from this. Whether it's, as soon as this thing stops producing, say if the glass breaks or whatever, it is monitored. So there's a DAS system that's Wi-Fi monitored. You can look at the system for wherever you are in the world. You can hold up on your phone or your laptop, whatever, it'll tell you. There's an email or a ping that owner will receive. I mean, we'll get it too, but we also own a lot, we maintain a lot of these. The owner will get that ping and it'll say, hey, this is down, what's wrong? We can troubleshoot it from remote, or sometimes we go in person. We also have 24/7 service team. We have an entire division. What if we're not there anymore? I mean, I hope we're still around. We're the longest running solar company, employee owned in the area. I think that's one of the reasons why the Merskys chose us. We've been doing this since 2003, actually way before this, up in northern Maine. So that's not the business we're in, our business is to keep doing this, because our end goal is to electrify the state with solar. So we're running off of electric heat, and we're offsetting that with electric solar panels, down to electric cars and electric vehicles. So we're like there. The maintenance, like I said, so you do get a ping if something was to go down. So if something was to break, or God forbid there's vandalism or anything, anytime a solar panel goes down, that's gonna disrupt voltage to the string, and that's gonna ping on the inverter. The inverters are all monitored, and every panel is monitored by an individual optimizer. So you can narrow it down from your phone, like what panel, what string, what row is the issue, and figure it out from there, and then send someone out there. There is a warranty, so that maintenance would be covered within, I don't know what the agreement's gonna be when it happens. Usually it's 5 years labor workmanship. It's 25 years minimum for manufacturer, and that's why there's a 25-year lease, not 40, because it'll last for 40, but it's 25-year insurance-backed manufacturer warranty. That's on the inverter, which is the workhorse, and the solar panels, which you need both of those to make this work. So I mean, I get that there's some noise. The battery, not the batteries, the inverters, they're usually in a bank somewhere. We want them closer to where this access is, so it'll be sort of near these transmission lines and near the access, like towards the road. But I can't tell you right now what the decibel is, but I know the inverter, depending, say we're gonna use Chint Power Systems, 125 kilowatt inverter, 10 of them, we're gonna know the decibel rating of that, because they've done those studies.
Fully loaded.
Yes. And then on top of it, like I said, we hire civil consultants. So there's a gentleman from Horizons Engineering, we work with them, and we work with Novus Consulting. They're one of the bigger firms in the area. So we do work with civil consultants and experts in that area. So when we're doing the AOT permits and the local site plan reviews and the local permitting, they're there to support with all those additional measures. And there's always I borrowed a commission a system, you know. Say it lasts for 40 years, what do? You know, it involves de-energizing, PV module removal, you know, you just take apart the pieces. But there is a plan, and there is a contract for that operation and maintenance plan if the buyer wants to hire us to maintain that system. I imagine if we were to go under or something happened, the buyer would not let this very expensive solar energy system sit and stay abandoned. I find that, I don't know where that's happening, but I know it's not happening around here.
No, there's not enough
These are
solar,
barely
there's not
even-
enough solar farms for it to happen up here, but
I
it's happened in New England, it's happened out west, it's happened down south. So there's
also
numerous,
shot
you know,
itself.
like I said, you can find something wrong with everything, right?
Yep.
But, you know, as a board member, I just bring this up just because it is a concern. And I'm sure that we have people out there that are probably residences and they, nearby, they're probably gonna wanna talk. So, at this point, I appreciate your answers, and I'll turn it back to, the chairman, and he can.
Any other questions from the board? There's a big public still out there, and I hope we're not all waiting for the first applicant. Doesn't look good. Anybody, the floor is open. If anybody would like to come up, state your name and your concerns.
My name's Peter Perkins. I live at 373 Horn Road. Just for the record, I live right by those power lines, and they don't hum. I'm out there all the time. So I'm just gonna read this. Some of the stuff may have been addressed already. Some of it might not have been. What residential or rural neighborhoods want a commercial solar field in their backyard? If I was to guess, it would be 0. If they knew about the potential hazard, environmental damage. My property backs up to their property roughly 70 feet below them with a brook and wetlands separating us. I am concerned about the environmental impact from the proposed solar field, such as a loss of habitat, the leaching of toxic chemicals into the ground and wetlands. The water runoff heads right towards my house and most likely will end up in my well. Solar panels are made with toxic materials such as cadmium, silicone tetrachloride, hexafluoroethane, lead, arsenic, and there's PFAS in the outer layer film for durability. In my research, I have found panels have prone to microcracking due to stress environmental factors like heavy snow, hailstorms. This will let water in. If water can get in, it can leak out. These panels have been, this one was already addressed. Panels have to be cleaned somehow, and with what chemical? I copied this statement off. Various heavy metals and toxin components employed in the manufacturing composition of solar PV elements can undergo degradation, potentially leading to soil contamination. The galvanized structures that support the panels leach zinc into the ground. The heat from the panels kills bugs and birds. The reflection from the panels kills birds, bats, because they think it's water. These panels cause fires. The humming from the transformers is annoying. The recommended distance from living near a commercial solar farm is a minimum of 1,640 feet, all the way up to 3 miles. The solar farm would decrease property values. We already have a cell tower in the neighborhood. If you allow a commercial solar farm, that will open up the door even further. What's next, a wind turbine? Do you want a commercial solar field in your backyard? My answer is definitely.
Back away a little bit from the microphone. You had it right up against your arm.
I'm all done anyways, that was it.
It was blocking your speech, I'm sorry.
Sorry
I
about
wanted
that.
to hear every word you said.
Sorry about that.
No, it's another phone.
I have copies if you want these. I don't know if you want to keep them for the record.
You should leave it.
I just need to use the restroom real quick.
Would anybody want to recess for a couple minutes?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I could use one. Recess, you said? Recess?
Recess?
I'm good with that. Yeah, I'd like one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody made communications on the first applicant?
Nothing.
Peter,
Yes?
if I could, I mean, an hour and a half,
Yeah.
I would respectfully request the board make a motion with respect to him not prosecuting this application and having it denied, or however you would procedurally, because I'll be here for another hour and a half, and he's probably not likely gonna come.
You know, I would do that after this application feels, now, my only feelings were that the board let him down the first meeting by not having a full board. He was here and prepared to go, and
Are we recessed right now? Are we?
You're recessed, so
Yeah.
you don't
We-
be-
I'm sorry?
you're recessed, so you.
We
don't
are
have-
recessed, okay. If this is just general discussion, then I can use it then. Okay.
it won't be another hour and a half, I don't believe, and most information's out. Once the floor closes, the board's had pretty good discussion with their concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
No
sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
problem. Try 28 years.
Pardon me?
I says, try 28 years.
Well, it's a bigger room than it was in the library, remember?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was,
Thank you.
I know where to find you.
get the golf clubs out, yeah.
I'm going to North Carolina in a couple weeks, so we'll be playing down there. I thought we were gonna be getting close to open, and then we got the snow.
Pretty quick.
Still on Wednesday nights? Still treasure?
I just straighten it. I'll talk to her about it some. There was a few steps to take. Bring the board back to business. Anybody else? Again, we're in the open public section. Anybody here wish to speak up on this application? Again, state your name and concerns.
My name is Laura Burback. We live at 87 Mile Hill Road, so across the street from the power lines. Our concerns were basically, already addressed, talking about the noise, talking about any glare, talking about if our property values are going to go down. I guess I don't understand how you have mapped out the exact 6 acres, but don't know how far from the road you're going to be. So I don't think that's really fair to say that we won't be able to see it. I know it's basically going to be in our neighbor's backyard. We're concerned about the health of, health of our children, concerned about wildlife. Like somebody already brought up, we have the 5G cell tower, we have the power lines, and now you're, adding something else. It's zoned for residential, it's not zoned for commercial. And I guess I don't know how it's going to really benefit us. There's not enough studies out there, I think, that prove that it's safe, but I don't like the fact that you say there's no noise and then you say actually there is noise. There's no light or glare from it. Well, actually there is an LED light. It doesn't sit well. It's not something that my family is interested in having, particularly, just the visibility and just the concerns. I don't think that it's proven that that would be beneficial to us. Also, the property is lined repeatedly with private property signs. The the trail has been closed. We used to walk over there. They put gates up. So we can't go there, but you can put a commercial solar farm in. Another concern that I had, sorry, I don't like public speaking. Another concern that we had was that in the 25 years, is it actually going to be, taken away? And you're also saying that it's going to be once a year, that there's going to be maintenance. Well, if there's damage, then it's going to be more than once a year, so don't say it's going to be once a year if it's not. Wildlife obviously is affected, and then tax value-wise, it's in current use, so your taxes already are lower than they would be, so kind of arguing a moot point there in my opinion. So, that is all.
I can answer the one concern on the board's behalf. That's why it's a two-step process between our zoning board and the planning board. Without the zoning board's approval, the money spent to try to put a plan together that would never come together is a burden on the application. So that would be what you address for concerns in the beginning, would be taking care of the site distance, would meet all the town specs, whatever they are, if they'd have to come into that. This grants relief for people that don't quite fit in the system, and the planning board is more like the offices that we get a chance to bend the rules, and the planning board has to play by the numbers, so. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Sorry, get started without me. I was in the restroom. Sarah, one of your neighbors, we haven't met yet, so I hope you don't feel like we're attacking you at all. Do you live there? I've been there 15 years.
There quite a bit.
Okay, I've never seen you, so. Anyway, thank you for letting us talk, and again, I hope this doesn't come across wrong, but we got 2 kids. We've been there 15 years. They go to, Belmont school. I don't know exactly what my wife just said, so we have a lot of the same concerns. I heard some of them. That 5G tower is huge. She didn't get into. I appreciate, Mark, that you went on YouTube, checked different things out. If you do the same thing with 5G tower, you're going to come up with all sorts of nasty stuff. So I did the same thing once I got this letter from Belmont saying this might come in our front yard. And there's so much negative stuff that you can look up, find, and there's positive stuff. One of the big things I took from this was, you said this is the first, there's no commercial solar panels in New Hampshire right now?
Well, there is, but not my.
No, you just said you didn't know if there was.
Like solar farm?
Solar farms, are there any?
This is commercial solar because that's the
Right.
way the town ordinance.
Because
I would
it is a
call
commercial.
I would call it agri-solar or solar farm, but they call it commercial solar.
You said there was none.
I
And
said
then you
solar
said-
farms are new
You-
in New
right.
Hampshire based off the rules, and I said, we are still developing.
So
This
you don't
is-
have any. And the first one you want to put in.
We have a ton in Maine,
Okay,
a ton.
this is New Hampshire,
yes.
not Maine. And
Yeah.
the very first one's gonna go in a,
It's not the first one.
it's not the first one, in New Hampshire.
No, that we're doing, these
What?
are a lot, these take years to develop. We have planning board meetings and zoning board meetings all the time throughout the state.
So you don't have one.
They take years to develop.
Okay, so you don't have one.
Well,
Yes
we
or
have
no?
commercial, I don't know what you're asking, actually.
In New Hampshire, are there
Do we have
any,
commercial
are there any
solar?
commercial solar farms?
Solar farms
Farms.
in New Hampshire, the first one that we're gonna have ready is in Jaffrey for community
Okay.
solar. But we have multiple commercial solar farms for municipalities and for commercial businesses like Hitcher Manufacturer and Wirebell by the airport. But this is a solar community farm, which is new in New Hampshire.
Okay. So,
Different.
it's gonna be the first one in our backyards, not in a commercially zoned area. So, the reason you sent us that letter, and all the neighbors, I know all the neighbors, but unfortunately I've never met you, sir. And I don't mean to be attacking on this, but we have 2 kids, and we're very concerned. John, you said something, you're like, aesthetics. You're gonna drive by, well, I'll be going by 30 miles an hour, I might see a glance at it. This is literally in their backyard. I mean, right out their backyard. It's gonna be right in our front yard. Let me go on here, sorry. I'm trying to think what else you didn't say. Yeah, recommended distances, 1640, but that's the smallest. They're saying, what did I say, 1.2 miles. I'd put it on the other side of your property. So there's just way too many question marks on this. EMFs, electromagnetic fields. You didn't bring that up at all. So an inverter will put off that. What about water? Is there going to be any water source? What about fire, construction, noise, maintenance, property value? There's been no, if you Google it, it's like, if you go, yeah, it'll be like, oh, there's very minimal, maybe 1.5. There is property, it's definitely out there. That's going to be an issue. I know now, just going back to the tower, because it is, I think, relevant. We have power lines, which we just got notice again, that they're going to put bigger power lines in. So we're going to have construction going on soon in our neighborhood with that again. This 5G tower, I didn't know anything of it, never even thought of it. I'm like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. After that tower went in, my son started feeling weird, headaches, blah, blah, blah. Didn't think anything of it. Anything of it. 5 or 6 months go by, and this black car pulls by right in my neighborhood, stops in front of our house. Can I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. You guys been feeling weird? I'm like, no, not really. No headaches, none even. But come to think of it, yeah, my kid has. So I do some research, and there's all sorts of negative stuff. We've taken them to doctors. They're saying maybe it's a deviated septum that's having sinus infections, causing this and this. I'm telling you, from the time that tower started working, our kids had issues. So there's way too many question marks. So it should not happen.
Appreciate your
Period.
input. I only have one correction.
Yeah.
They don't do 30 miles an hour anymore. They do 50.
That's right. Maybe do something about that too.
I live on
But-
Hurricane Road.
And the fact that this all looks good. I left one thing out. So my wife did, I hear her say, she brought up the snowmobiles. They used to go through there. There's gates. They've been closed all winter. So they're coming around back in front of our house saying, yeah, the gates are closed. The gates are closed. 2-3 years ago, we used to walk our golden retriever right across the street through your property. I thought it was out of current use because now if you look out my front door, there's 3 yellow signs saying no trespassing, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you're saying one thing, oh, we're giving them a tax break, you know, we're keeping this land, blah, 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 but it's not good for anyone. You shut the snowmobile trail down, and now this.
Can I?
Shut the snowmobile trail down.
Excuse me.
We have an agreement with the snowmobile organization. They have the keys. So if that snowmobile trail is locked, if those gates are locked, that's up to them. We've given them permission to use our property for the snowmobile trail, but if they've locked the gates, that has nothing to do with us.
I'll give them.
Talk to them.
That's
Reach out to them
okay.
and
That's
say,
not what I heard.
Why
But
have you guys had these gates locked? You need to talk to them about that.
okay. Well,
I'll have to stop the discussion, it's an argument.
Yes.
And we've got a meeting conduct.
Good.
Again, thank you for your.
Thank you.
I have a question of this gentleman. Can I ask that gentleman a question?
Yeah.
Okay. You said something, I might have misheard you.
Yeah.
A minimum distance of 1640?
Recommended.
Oh, recommended, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have some source?
Google. I just Googled. I'm not act like I'm a solar farm. I just did the same thing, Mark. You know, I'm looking into this. I'm an airline pilot. I don't know anything about solar farms. I do know there's glare on them.
Okay.
Fly over
So
the
you-
airport. There's
all right.
definitely
So
glare.
you don't have a source for it, okay. But I thought it would just be helpful for the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be helpful for the board probably to know how far it is from the road too. You'd think that would be some sort of zoning thing that.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
1640 is, about a
Not
third-
very far
about
from
a-
their house.
It's almost a third of a mile. That's quite a bit.
And that, yeah.
That's pretty
And-
far.
You don't know if that's for utility scale solar, or we're using.
No, that's why I wanted a
We're
source.
also using the word commercial solar I wanna go back and say, this is a small scale solar farm.
You're selling it to a commercial,
But
which
it's
makes it commercial.
No, it's commercial because that is the way the Town of Belmont ordinance describes, that is what they do. There's agricultural solar, which you guys can tell me all the descriptions. There's residential, agriculture, which is for a farm,
Yep.
and commercial. I went to the ARC meeting, which was a meeting with all the lead people in town who already said, yeah, okay, this is safe, fire department, police department, blah, blah, blah. And this is commercial because it's being leased and sold to another place. It's not like I just wanna make sure we understand how
would
we're
make it
talking
commercial.
about commercial.
Regular solar is for your personal use. People that have solar panels are for personal use.
Personal.
Once it's sold, it
Commercial.
becomes
Commercial.
extended use. That's
It's
that's
commercial.
why we're here.
Which, sorry, you brought one other thing up. Back when we could walk your property, the water, that is probably some of the wettest land all around there. So my question is, where are you gonna put the trees, to hide it from the road? Don't you need sunlight? So you're gonna have this 6 acres. Where exactly is that gonna, the buffer zone?
The planning board will know that.
But all around there is a water. So all our water, is there gonna be any wells put in for no irrigation?
Oh, no irrigation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Yes?
Christine Johnson, and I'm at 92 Mile.
If you could come up to the podium for a few of us.
I'll be quick.
Thank you.
So my land does
Just repeat the address, I'm sorry, just for the.
92 Mile Hill.
Thank you.
Yep, so my land abuts, I will look out my back window and that is where it will be. So I'm not quite sure how large this buffer is, but chances are pretty good I will see this through my back window instead of watching the deer and the wildlife that I'm used to watching. And all of my other concerns have kind of already been addressed.
Oh. Thank you for,
Thank you.
anyone else? I don't want to leave anyone else.
Eric Taylor, 92 Mile Hill Road.
Up here.
Yeah, it's coming.
I didn't know I had a concern until you mentioned that you don't have any hazardous materials built with your panels, but you also mentioned silica. Silica is a toxic and hazardous material. If inhaled, it can lead to lung problems, it can lead to cancer. And I work at a concrete plant, so I am dealing with silica all the time because it's in cement. I don't want any more of that in my life, so I would like to keep that down to a minimum, and if your panels include silica in the making of them, I'm all set on that. As for this gentleman who has, you know, runoff water, those break, that silica goes in the water, mixes with the water, it'll lead to his property, and his well's ruined. He now needs a new well. And then, I mean, you're unclear on the buffer zone between my mother's and my property, and visually seeing those, I don't like seeing solar panels. And whereas you said 30 degrees facing south, that is directly towards our property.
I think it's this way, you're over here. This is the this is untouched.
This is the power line.
That's correct.
And
And this is the buffer. There's a little buffer here.
that's how big the buffer is.
I mean, 55 feet. I mean, 35, sorry, 35. It's a 35-foot wetland buffer for non-prime wetlands.
So we will definitely see those panels because you can see 30 feet through trees.
Well, they're also facing away from you, but I'm not gonna tell you you're not gonna see it. You don't know. Yeah, we haven't reached the concept, I mean, we're at the concept plan, but we haven't reached, like, they said, the planning board and the site plan review.
I mean, as the homeowner said, who's, you know, agreeing to all this to be able to put these panels in, she doesn't even want to see them. So she's putting them in the, you know, further corner of her property to be able to not see them.
No, that's not true. We have a buffer zone also around, it's the same as you do. We've requested a buffer zone. Additionally, they have the buffer zone, but then they also have a cut. They have to cut like 80 to 100 feet from the edge of the buffer zone so that the trees that are in the buffer zone, when they fall, don't fall and hit the panels. So it's actually a significant buffer zone.
So
So there's a buffer zone, but then there's, okay, this is the buffer zone for the lease, but then additionally, we don't want any trees in your buffer zone hitting our panels. Some of those trees are 80 to 100 feet, so there's like an additional 80 to 100 feet beyond the edge of the buffer zone that is cleared on the inside of the fence so that they don't fall on their panels. So it's pretty significant.
but that's a clear-cut view into
That's
the
clear.
panel's view.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not really
Space.
it's not really a buffer zone obstructing your view. That's the whole point of the buffer zone, is to
Which is
obstruct your view.
significant still, the buffer zone is significant.
So you're saying you have an 80-foot buffer zone, and we have a 35-foot buffer zone. Seems a little unfair.
So the plan is to keep the existing forest around untouched. So we have a cutting plan. When we get to the site plan review, that's when you talk about landscaping.
I say you should be basically addressing the board.
Sorry.
No, just a general rule. You should be going through the board and not to each other.
Thank you.
New to this.
But I just wanna be
That's
clear,
through the board, just so it's not to each other.
I wanna be clear, like, this is
Well,
the
then I'd have to answer
zoning.
her, and she'd have to answer me.
Well, yes, but
This is, yes, this is for zoning, we're asking for a variance based on the hardship of the land to allow commercial solar, and then once we get to a site plan review with the planning board, you have to follow that checklist, and landscaping and screening is part of that checklist, and that's significant, that's one of the biggest things that come up with any have an engineered plan and we invest, you know, we're gonna hire the civil consultant and we're gonna go, like, then we're gonna really invest a lot of money into this. That's when we're installing this panel, this high, this is the exact distance, this is like, then we'll have all of that information. This is, you can think of it as the concept, if it's allowed, then we get to, based off the conditions, you know what I mean, and based off concerns for the neighbors too, of course. So, that's usually how, like, these work, based on my experience, but they can speak more to it. To your concerns, for sure.
Then how would you address the toxicity of the components going into it?
We have an entire article here. So we use a panel known as crystalline silicon, CSI. I mean, I can really get into this, but there's layers of what the panels are, all the different components, why we use them. They're reliable, they're efficient. You know, how are they made? Typically 95% of a solar panel is recyclable. The problem is the back sheet. The back sheet is what people can't usually recycle because it's usually a plastic, but there are now solar panel companies that can recycle them. You know, there's EU regulations, there's there's California regulations, there's all these. I get that there's really, it's like with anything. We can buy our outfits on Temu and support that, or we can go down the road and support a local sustainable, you know, made, or get something from alpaca wool or something like that. I mean, it's really depending on who you use as a company, what they're choosing to buy. There are millions of solar panels, millions of inverters, millions of batteries, millions of different wires, there's so many options. Do you want cheap? Do you want, you know, or do you want something that's gonna, like, we're not the cheap version. We are the tried and true, like, we don't wanna service these, we don't wanna contaminate the environment, we don't wanna go back to fix things or take things out and replace things, so we're looking for the best of the best.
So none of those panels are toxic in nature?
I mean, it depends how they're made and where they're from, and are they, you know, ours are UL listed, they go through laboratories. Panels, they do break, like, they get hit by baseballs, or they shatter, or trees fall down, and then it's, you know, a home insurance claim maybe or something. But, as far as I know, and I'm not a scientist, so we're not to that part yet, but like our installers are not getting cancer from removing these solar panels, and our customers, like, there's been absolutely no feedback or anything for sensitivity regarding the panels in there. I mean, we do get a lot of questions like, do you recycle? What are they made out of? Is there PFAS? That's usually on the back sheet, and our panels are, no, we don't want that. So I mean, I totally get it. Nobody wants to tear down 6 acres of trees and put up a solar, you know, a toxic, you know, solar thing. But you have to think of it on the flip side. Your electricity is coming from toxic. Your electricity right now is coming from coal.
So do you think we need any more toxicity?
But I'm not adding more, like, we're doing it in this most sustainable way based on our current, what we have as a generation. Like, where are we at? We don't have different technology. We have wind, which I think is more intrusive. We have solar, we have hydro, we have wood, we have coal, we have natural gas, we have petroleum. Out of that mix, I mean, we need a mix to run the world, but this is, I think, the cleanest option. It's not gonna be the option for utility scale solar, because it takes up too much room, but it's a option that's the least impactful. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. But is this better than building how many houses or quarter-acre lots? I mean, I just bought a development by my house because I would prefer this, not just because I do this as a living, mailboxes and the sewage and the water use, and I mean, a subdivision is a burden. This is a passive system, and if we're gonna develop anything here, I think it beats wind, and I think it beats a subdevelopment. I know it can't be financially, I know that's not one of the hardships, but I mean, it's a revenue stream. It's for the owner, and people are being forced to move. They can't afford where they live anymore, and we're finding new ways to create an income, and what can we do? And this is an option. So I'm not, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's one of the options based out of everything else we can think of to do with this land. It's the better, it's the lesser evil. It's like the better option. And we are the best company in the area to do this versus hiring a company who's just going to develop from Arizona or Florida and then hire any known electrician and their crew to construct it, and that's gonna have problems. Everybody working on this is employee owned and has a stake in a company and is going to do this system like it's their own. So, I mean, that's all I can really say, so.
I mean, it's still just a big concern of, I hate backtracking to previous points, but it's just still a big concern about the whole silica thing. You acknowledge that you don't know if it's harmful or not. You don't know about all this because, as you said, you're not a scientist. I'm not a scientist either, but I did my own research on silica because I'm a concrete plant. Used to it around me. It is harmful, it is toxic. So you started off your, I don't know the right word for it, but we'll say speech about this whole thing to the board, with saying that it is non-toxic. It uses non-toxic materials. When come to find out, now you listed your components of the materials, and now we know it's toxic.
Yeah, but
Crystalline.
silica is it's the most abundant material on Earth, for one, and we're not licking your
Excuse me,
eating
I'm gonna interrupt you.
so-
The time's getting
You
late.
guys are just arguing.
I just don't.
My apologies.
But you sat in an audience and listened to this type of discussion for the last 2 hours. She has expressed everything she knows, and if you were listening, you wouldn't have to ask this question. And I'm gonna suggest that the board perhaps make a motion to continue this application.
Yes.
There's a lot of new information that's come here tonight. You provided great information. We're all confused. Agreed. These guys, the abutters, had a lot to say to address and get you, upgrade your application, address their concerns and the board's concerns, and
Chairman?
get ahead with it.
Chairman?
I don't think we have the information we need to make a motion to grant or deny it. I'm sorry, Jeff.
I agree. Can I just say something here? Part of what I hear as a problem right now is a lack of information, and you're addressing it. We have difficulty as a board making a decision with just what we have.
An informed decision.
The process for what happened here, what happens here, requires that abutters are notified. But it doesn't say exactly what the abutters have to have. It sounds like, I've heard things about the cell tower, which is really unrelated to solar panels. I know, because I used to design stuff like that, completely unrelated. But it's a good point, because what it is, it's a cautionary thing. So I don't dismiss that, but I can't decide. So here's what I think we need to do, and I'll present this to the chairman. I think what we need to do is make the information that's laying on that desk available to these people. They keep walking over, and I see the applicant pointing the thing on the desk. It's not up on a board. It hasn't been, well, it might, you might have it, but it's not the planner's obligation to put it up on a board. It's the applicant's obligation to put it up on a board and make it available to the folks that want to speak to that, okay? So,
Just a point of order, just for clarification. The abutters notices inform the abutters of the application and tell the abutter if they would like more information to come to the land use office to view the file, which we do. We have had several abutters who have come in and viewed the file.
okay, that is available right now?
It's available from the day the notices go out.
Okay,
Chairman? Chairman?
Peter?
okay. I
Yes,
need
I'm
more
sorry.
information, like I asked a question about that 1640, I wanna know where that came from. Is that a standard that we need to be making our decision on, or not?
It was on Google. If you search it, it will come up on Google.
So, I'm sorry, I just had a question. I've, two issues. One is, personally, I would think, 4, 6, 8, 12 panels would be fine. 1,000, I think, is making me crazy in my head. That's just as a resident. Okay, so that's one thing I wanna think. And then the second thing I thought about was, the land is, you don't wanna have development, which I understand, but perhaps it could be special use or a land trust from the town. I'm not sure what she's getting in the lease, but maybe that could be for the snowmobilers. You see what I'm saying?
What we're talking about here, Tom, is
Yeah.
whether or not we should continue this
Right.
case or
No.
not, and what the premises are for that continuation. And I thought that I had a premise for continuation. I have one, I don't have two. I thought I had two, because I wasn't familiar with, the folks could have come in. I'm gonna suggest to everybody that's got a question to go in and ask. But the other one is, I don't have enough information. And I spent a part of my life as a researcher, so I'm hung up on this stuff. So I will research it. I can't make a decision. I make a lot of the motions here. Frankly, I cannot make a motion to either deny or grant this, because I don't have enough information. I'm hearing a lot of outside stuff coming in. That came from outside this room. I don't know what the source is. I don't know what the reliability. I don't want some post hoc fallacy to interfere with our decision-making, and I don't feel good because the panels are over there is post hoc fallacy, if you wanna know what that means, all right? There's no foundation for it. I want a foundation for either denying this or granting it, because it's likely that myself or one or two other people on this board would be the ones to do it. And this is there for 25 years. I don't wanna make a mistake, so I agree with the chairman. I think we need a motion to continue this to next time. And it may be difficult for you, but I'll tell you what, if it's not right, it'll even be more difficult. Okay? All right, are we in agreement there? I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman, you ready? I would like to make a motion to continue, this, meeting to next month. The date positive is a certain. April 23, at 6 o'clock, at which point we'll resume the discussions on this, and we will, that concludes the motion, but I would very strongly suggest you folks to go in and see Ms. Santoro, all right, and get the information you need, because some of it, I'll leave it there.
Said enough. I would consider,
I'll leave it there.
do I get a second on that?
I second that
We need
motion.
Another motion too.
You have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a vote. All in favor of the continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck, ladies.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for everyone's input. I'd like-
Mr. Chair, your first application.
All eyes, yeah, the first application, Robert Rossagno.
Monsignor, you have two options. You can either choose to continue to the April 23rd, or you could deny without prejudice at this point.
I'd like to make a motion on that, if you don't mind. I'd like to make a motion that we continue until April 23rd, being that we didn't have enough people the first time, so they weren't here this time. If they're not here next time, then it just goes in the trash.
Fair enough.
I second that motion.
Can I ask before second motion, If somebody doesn't, in a regular court of law, they're just found guilty, you know what I'm saying? Do we have some process like that here, that we shouldn't even be continuing this? Because this is a favor to some other person.
Right, you've done this in the past. If you've had, as a general practice, you have generally, when an applicant doesn't show up, you give them the opportunity to continue at one time. If they don't show up the next time, then you can deny without prejudice. That's your standard operating procedure for any applicant.
Okay, so actually he gets a second chance, is that what you're telling me?
It's what you've offered.
He gets-
all your other applicants.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, he gets a
was here
second
last
chance.
month.
All right,
He was
okay.
here.
I just wanted,
He was
Yeah.
here. He
Yeah.
knew about
because I didn't know.
Yeah, but you know what? They didn't have
Okay, we
enough
got
board
a mo-
members go to the house.
That was the
We've
one
got-
before, sir.
We've got a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
We've got a motion.
No,
I just
last
wanted to
year.
make sure we're okay with it.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
I'll second it, I'll second it.
Okay.
Well, he seconded it. Yeah, he seconded
All
it.
I did.
to continue to next month.
Yes.
Motion on the floor is continue to next
Put
month.
it this way, he's gonna have to come here anyway. He's already got it all framed. If you've been up there, it's all framed. At some point, he's gonna either get slammed down or he's gonna have to get
Almost an
permission.
hour and a half.
Do we have a vote, we have a motion and a second?
Yeah, he seconded it. He motioned,
seconded
I
it.
motioned it,
All right,
and
he
he
sec-
seconded it. I
Dana
motioned that we
seconded-
continue
Dana
until
seconded
April
it.
23rd.
He was over there at the house today, I'll say that.
The vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That was easy.
Okay.
Well,
Holy moly.
somebody told me it was gonna be a late meeting.
I was dreading this one, next month's gonna be worse.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hopefully there'll be a little more information available.
So we are done?
No, we have staff report.
We're still in,
I didn't hear the gavel, that's why I asked.
I find it very interesting.
I'll ask my one supposed to do it, Bill.
Giant
Staff,
power line.
it's here.
And
It's,
cell tower. Would bat their
minutes
eyes,
first,
so-
minutes of,
February 26th.
I was a little surprised at that, but
anybody have any comments on the minutes? Motion to adopt or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 26th
We have a
meeting.
motion on February 26, 2025 to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Tom.
Oh,
You're not seated. So you're either that.
I have made a motion to approve the minutes from,
February,
February 26th. Can I get a second?
I will second that motion.
You weren't here for that meeting, so I don't, no, okay,
Still second it.
okay.
all in favor say aye.
I,
I'll
Aye.
That, yeah, so you can either, or abstain either way.
I'll second
Abstain.
it.
I wasn't here, so I couldn't tell you.
Something tells me they're gonna pass.
Why do you still
It's
look
either
at
gonna be a 302
I know.
or
Yeah.
If you
400.
truly felt that way, why do you still?
Good deal with it.
You've been there 15 years.
Were you in favor or did you abstain?
I was in favor.
Okay, there you go. 401.
If you thought your kid's health and safety was in jeopardy, why do you still live?
first doctor.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next.
Yep, never mind.
Moved out.
Staff report?
Okay, staff report. You, as you may have noticed, Reese is not here. Reese did send a letter and has resigned from the zoning board. Typically, it's a courtesy to accept his resignation, with regret or with, or just accept it all. That would open up a regular member seat. I know, Mark and I have spoken about, putting his name in for the full position on the zoning board. That would have to be appointed by the selectmen to fill the balance of Reese's term, which I believe goes to 2027. So you do have Reese's resignation, and then we will,
The selectmen have to,
for the regular members, because typically you go on the warrant, but because the town meeting's already passed, the selectmen would accept to fill a regular position.
I was appointed without that. What, 2011, I think it was 2012.
They may have changed the procedure. Yeah, typically, it's appointed by, the regular members are appointed by the selectmen for a regular member. We can
Yeah, because late 2011 or 2012.
I think we voted,
There
right?
was an opening, I was an alternate, which is what he is, right? I don't, and I was just appointed by the board. And then the next year I ran,
Then the next year ran.
yeah.
Well, regardless, we will work out the devils and the details on that one.
Devil in the
Confirm that.
That's
Okay.
what it's at.
Anyway, so that basically is the end of my report. Obviously, all the zoning ordinance, like I said, giving you new pages. Yes, you should have new pages. The amendments did pass. We're still waiting on the official legal opinion, just so we have it in writing about the manufactured homes. It's advisory only because it's in conflict with several other pieces, but we're just waiting for an official from, our town attorney, putting it in writing, saying it's advisory only at this point. But the other two ordinance changes passed, which would be the addition of the definition of motor vehicles and to allow agricultural animals on an acre or more.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of shocking that this mobile home thing passed.
I was shocked by that
Oh,
too.
really?
Yeah.
I'll
What
tell
didn't
you.
pass?
That was a petition article, but that concludes.
What
my
didn't
report at
pass?
this point.
But so it's not enforced
What was
because it was
what was
petition,
crazy
right?
was, they turned down the budget because they don't want the taxes to go up, and then they allow mobile homes to come and they built that up, which causes the
The entire
taxes to
town
go
would
up.
be, within 5
Like,
years,
what are
the
you
entire
thinking?
town would be mobile homes. There's so many mobile home parks and communities in this town.
Well, there's a lot of thought process in that question, but I'll let that go.
Anybody want to make a motion to quit?
I'll make a motion that we're out.
Reese did that already, right?
Yeah.
Adjourn?
Adjourn.
All in
I can't
favor,
read
say
that,
aye.
oh, Silcock, oh, yes.
Opposed?
I'm a second, I'll second, I'll third.
I oppose. No.
Aye. Say aye.
Susan wants to keep the party going for a
adjourn.
couple hours.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, I'd like to go home.
Good?
Some of us have early jobs in the morning. Tax did great.
John, is this your jacket?
I thought the applicant, they were wearing pretty much the same shirt. So and he's behind the pole, so I just thought it was like one of his colleagues. And then when he stood up, I was like, oh, that guy doesn't have a logo on his shirt. And he's like,
But if you look at the variance with all the discussion here today, you have to decline it. Just on the first three criteria, it's not even going into the hardship. That's where I was at, I was like,
And I'm gonna say those residents were not happy.
I
well,
have
they're
a-
not happy, but her story keeps changing, and she doesn't have the right information.
yeah,
She
very
doesn't.
interesting that the Bulldogs didn't show up. So they, that's, is that his
It's
thing?
important for them to know,
Well, like I said, my issue is, maybe she's gonna get $5,000 bonus or something from this
Oh,
company.
well, it's all about money for them.
Yeah, it's clear she just wants the money. I think my biggest issue with it is the buffer zone. I mean, we're talking 35 feet.
I went there, you can't put anything. I drove all up and down.
6
it.
acres of clearing, but
Yeah.
that's all.
Not to mention the fact that, yes, they're gonna have a construction zone through the wetlands. What I didn't mention, because I haven't looked at it, I wanna go look at it myself, but that's communications. It's not gonna Wi-Fi over. They're gonna have to dig in a fiber optic line, and it has to be dug under 46 kV lines. That's what I do. I that.
Well, I'm a licensed electrician, so, I mean, it's, this stuff is all, there's so many different types of solar panels out there. Some are more toxic than others, and 99% of them are coming from China.
And you got me marked,
Yeah.
it was 1,000.
Over 1,000.
Yeah. Like I said, it was 468. I would've been okay.
Thanks, guys.
But
Mark, I must have been shopping all the same channels you were. I got all the same information.
I did.
Yeah, like I said, she's gotta have more accurate information for me to look at.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she was doing a softball.
What's your name again? Dana.
Hey, it's fine by me. I don't wanna tell you it was an easy one.
I had a harder day.
Sorry.
Do power up there for the last 50 years. Specialized in the old antique Volkswagen.
Oh, no way.
No way. I worked at the Volkswagen dealer back in the 70s and ended up, Hurricane Road.
Okay.
Volkswagen for
Peter.
selling and someone's trying to buy it.
Oh,
from your
thank
property.
you.
That's probably what it is.
Thank you. It worked
I'm used to
excellent.
collecting stuff.
It worked excellent when they were moving that map around out there. It was like, because they were running over the top.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, I hear all the papers going and everything. They're crashing and banging. Oh, my God.
There was a lot of, you were right about some of the sideways. Some of the sideways noise, you were right.
Oh,
Somebody speaks up and drops something in the wrong
Oh,
place.
yeah.
It's like, boom.
absolutely.
I opened my pocket up and it was like, snap.
Yeah, that, but the echo in the room too, the heavy echo in this room. It's,